Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started here. Let me see. Let's turn desktop audio on and switch over to our gaming room. Hello, it's me, Wandermouth. Okay, so we're gonna try and get all the endings to Sanator Scarlet Scarf today. We got the Endless Vengeance ending or some such, which is cool, but I think there's a true ending that we haven't gotten to yet. So we're gonna try and get that one. I was gonna take the opportunity to kind of slow down with my voice acting a little bit, since a friend of mine told me that I wasn't spending enough time with the lines, so there wasn't time to like appreciate them fully. Anyway, so that's gonna be the goal for today. But yeah, let's get right into it. Bitrate's holding steady. I did a few tests and I thought I wasn't gonna be able to play today, but looks like we're all good to go. I do want to test something real fast before I finish up here. I want to make sure that my text overlay is working properly, because I've been having issues with that. Let's go to my channel. I'll pop into my stream here. Okay, so the overlay is not working with this particular... interesting. So it should be working, but... hold on a second. Bring to top, Control R F8. Okay. Control Alt F8. Aha! There we go. Now it's working right. Cool. So, there we are. That's why I couldn't see anybody's messages last time. So, let me see. I guess we're going to start a new game and try and get some of the other endings here. Or do we hit continue? No, that's just the saves, right? Get all endings unlocked. Yeah, we probably should have saved more often. Oh well. Could go all the way to the beginning, but... Isn't it in skip mode? Well, I guess it is. We did already do all this last time. I don't know if I want to go through all of it again, but it was pretty cool. Let's just go to Scarlet Scarf. Ah! Oh lordy. So, okay. So last time we let her follow, so this time we're going to drive her away. She doesn't understand the danger. It would be criminal to show untimely lenience. This is not a place for you, waif, and I am not your friend. I'll give you some good advice. Run and pray to the sleeper to protect you from the plague, and if I see you stalking after me, prepare to be caught and spanked. The threats seem not to frighten the waif as much as they upset her. Stupid crow, as if I need you. I'll walk anywhere I please. I'm not obligated to do what some long-nosed tells me to. Buzz off, shrimp. I feel like his voice was a little harsher last time. Let's do... We didn't see the Walder's house, I don't think, first. There are the Walder's doors. There are the Walder's doors, a prosperous family who earn their wealth as cloth merchants. Some say their children are at home only for a few days during the year, occupied with business affairs. I really think this voice is a lot different than what I used last time. Who knows? Maybe it's better for them that way? Raising the knocker, Richard stops abruptly. Has he heard something? The Sanator holds his breath and lends an attentive ear to the sounds behind the door. He's not mistaken. Weak moans come from inside. The Sanator pushes the door, having set his shoulder against it. It seems to be unlocked, but is difficult to open, as if there is something behind it. This resistance irritates Richard, and he fiercely pushes it again and again. The hope to rescue whoever is inside the house strengthens the brother, and the next push moves the unknown obstacle aside. A dark gap becomes wide enough to step inside, and the Sanator proceeds fearlessly. Now it's clear why the door was so hard to open. A heavy-set man had died unlocking it, and now his blood-stained body is lying there in the dark hallway. Ooh, so there's a corpse laying up against it. Someone is breathing heavily and sobbing inside the house. Richard can't find a candle, so he moves to the darkness of the strange house to open the shutters wide by unhinging the hook. The Sanator nearly trips over a stool that falls down with a loud crash, and the moaning stops for a moment. Cursing the deviltry that puts all sorts of garbage in his path, Richard finds the latch and pulls it, letting the sunlight inside. Ooh. Oh no, that's that lady. Daylight illuminates a dying woman. She lies limply among the sheets, bleeding. Richard, as he bends down to her, understands that he's useless here. The ailment has been progressing fast. Both must have awakened during the night with the obvious symptoms. Mr. Walder found the strength to crawl to the door to call for help, but failed to open it. His wife, fearing the pain, did not move, and that's why she's still alive. Richard turns to the side to avoid her hopeful stare. The Brotherhood rules forbid him to use the powers that could snatch Mrs. Walder out of the jaws of death. The prohibitions that make Richard agree with those cursing him as he fulfills them. The prohibitions that protect him even from an even worse hatred. So he could save her life. Interesting. Richard Murdoch has no right to be a healer or a miracle worker at his sole discretion. He is a Sanator, and his hands kill more often than they cure. He takes a vial with opium tincture out of his gripsack, and bitter drops start falling one by one between her thirsty bluish lips, enough to put her to sleep and relieve her from unnecessary suffering. He holds her hand until the opium takes effect. Nay, Richard does not mourn her, nor is he upset by what he has done. His mind is feverishly seeking any exculpation to save Mrs. Walder, but can't find any. This woman's life can't be of any benefit to the Brotherhood, nor to him personally. Did someone say charity? Charity is a luxury that only a few can afford. Leaving the now deserted house, Richard shuts the door tight and marks it with a wide cross. At night, the morticians will wrap the bodies in tar-soaked hides and take them out of town where the ashes of yesterday's fires are still smoldering. Thus far, it is still possible to burn the corpses. Let's look at the Hines house next. Tiger violets are quite conspicuous on the Hines windows, just as Winfred had said. Richard hears voices inside. That's already reason to be happy. It seems a woman is telling children off for something, and there are footsteps and laughter. Children, not yet affected by the all-pervading terror. No, the malady hasn't come here yet. But the scarf? The damned Scarlet Scarf. No, Richard must knock and ask. After a few knocks, the curtains open, and some frightened yet curious children stare at him. Someone fumbles with the lock behind the door, and at last opens it a little, hesitating to let the scary guest in. How can I help, good brother? Are you all well in there? Thanks be to the sleeper, we are all right. We are all right. No one is ill, and the children have had their hands washed. People say they've seen a Scarlet Scarf, the mark of the plague, on your house. Do you know anything about that? The woman's voice trembles as if she's ready to curse and swear or burst into tears. Oh, Elmo, protect us. We haven't seen anything like that. Maybe it's Grandpa's bed cap drying outside. There it is. It's the red one. Indeed. Looks like that from afar. You might take it off, though, so as not to call attention. It's a bad omen these days. Yes, I will do that right away. Who would have thought? The Senator feels that something is not quite as it should be, as if there's something apart from the plague that's frightened her. Have you seen anything suspicious, by the way? Maybe someone breaking the quarantine? Oh, it was so scary last night. There were footsteps and rustling, and it sounded like someone moaning. Must have been the damn Scarfer dragging someone to the netherworld. Richard sighs, wanting to shield his mind from this nonsense. Or some marauders dragging sacks with loot? How can anyone be brave enough to make sure? What if What if he looks back at you and then breaks into your house? The woman stammers, apparently imagining the scene in detail. Then, picking up her courage, continues louder and grumpier. No, I won't look myself, and I won't let the children do so either. This is not the time for looking around. Well, keep ye safe and sound. May the sleeper keep you, good brother. In contrast to the polite farewell, the door immediately slams shut. People are not to be blamed for their superstitious fears. Even the Sanators themselves don't always know the cause of maladies, and the commoners know much less. The outbreak started only 5 days ago, and now the town is full of rumors about the horrible Scarfer, an unholy spirit that marks houses and takes twice as many lives each day. Any excitable housewife who hears some birds roosting under the eaves or some drunk stumbling near her windows will be hurrying to tell all the fearsome details to her neighbors by the communal well in the morning. There may even be a bit of truth in them. Who knows? This is weird that it's kind of like that. Richard leaves, smiling furtively beneath his mask. At least someone was lucky today. It was certainly not the evil spirit tromping under the Heinz windows. Marauders are the oversight of the executors and their underlings, the town guards. Indeed, he may even have the chance to give the foolish thieves their last rites. Weimar's house. A chalk cross is seen on the door from afar, marking the plagued house. Richard stops at the entrance, pondering. What could a scarlet scarf on the already death-marked house mean? He must take it as an evil omen or not? The Sanator pulls the doorknob, and his suspicion becomes a conviction. The boards used by the morticians to close up the door have been surreptitiously detached. Avis was right. The marauders are active here. Fools wishing to steal valuables from infected houses, counting on dumb luck. Maybe it's them hanging scarlet ribbons on the houses, frightening the residents so they can rob them later. And still, the house must be checked. The villains don't even need to sneak by the guards. If they are reckless enough, they'll hide in tainted houses during the day, waiting for the dark, and then carry the loot away at night in tarry sacks, pretending to be morticians. Some marauders have even made deals with them. The broken door creaks pitifully, letting the beak-faced doctor in. Leaving his grip sack near the entrance, he holds a heavy stick, ready to protect himself from villains who surely want to avoid retribution. But these precautions prove quite unneeded. Richard can see a semi-supine figure by the open dresser. Nearby, an open sack with some belongings lies abandoned. Apparently, it won't be of use to the thief anymore. The Sanator approaches the wretch cautiously, but the pool of blood around him indicates that the man is certainly dead. His face twisted with a deadly terror, and his pose shows that he was surprised by someone. But who could that be? The Sanator finds a candle end in the kitchen and carefully examines the body. Maybe it contains a clue to this strange plague's mystery. The corpse's wide-open eyes are filled with madness. Did the thief see the mysterious Scarfer himself? The malady developed so rapidly that he could hardly sit up. There's no such way he could have moved around covered with such gashes. Each day the malady seems to grow more virulent, killing its victims even faster, and Richard knows that diseases don't normally work like this. At least the ordinary diseases don't. After making sure that the dead body bears no signs of assault and that any accomplices have fled, the Sanator leaves the twice-cursed house. He must inform the brethren at the fortress. Maybe the acolytes will have time to prepare this body for the evening autopsy. Richard has no doubt it must be done, and then to the patients. After visiting the marked houses, Richard walks through the quarantine quarters, listening carefully for any distress calls. He looks attentively at the doors and the shutters. Are they shut fast? Are there any bloodstains? But the gingerbread quarters are silent. Even if there are other sick people behind the doors, they're more afraid of the doctor than of the plague. The waif again, walking down the street as if nothing's wrong. She doesn't even try to hide. Has she been following him around? Bad luck. Why are you still wandering around here, you crazy girl? A plague, a contagion is here, and you walk around the streets. Haven't I told you to find shelter somewhere and wait it out? Scolding does not seem to bother her, and the waif continues to talk back. Oh sure, I'll find shelter. I'll keep walking around the houses and someone will surely take me in. Not all are as wicked as you, crowhead. Trying to shame me? No, if you have nowhere to go, go to the hospital. You'll die anyway, but at least you won't spread the plague among the people. Grinning cheekily, she keeps talking back, looking at the white mask without fear. I don't care about people at all. Go to the hospital yourself. Me? I like it here. No way I'll go anywhere. She's just openly teasing him. Hey, you! Hold it! What impudence! Not many people would dare to talk to brothers that way, mocking their instructions. Youthfulness is no excuse to let that display of insubordination go unpunished. Did someone purposely teach her to disrespect St. Elmo's Brotherhood? Surprised and, truth be told, annoyed with the waif's insolence, Richard rushes to catch her and to take her to the hospital. But she seems to have some experience in running from the guardsmen. She grins defiantly and starts running away, quickly disappearing into a narrow archway between the houses. Richard follows, but she's vanished without a trace. Feeling an odd vexation, he strikes the wall with his stick and goes away empty-handed. Richard must report back to the fortress before continuing vain labors at the hospital. More fruitless efforts to retain the lives trickling from dying bodies. Trying again and again, failing again and again, until the sun hides behind the pointy roofs, and the cool breeze of the evening brings a short respite to the patients desperately gasping for air. Speaking of, I need to breathe more often. Holy shit. Twilight forever reigned under the dank mortuary's vaulting. Even at the brightest noon, the sunrise hardly pierced the narrow windows on the thick stone walls. Smoky, tarry torches attempted to bring in light, all in vain, as they were only blackening the mildewed stones, weeping with condensation. But how would all change on a moonlit night? This room was built ages ago, in the times of the Aelur, when there was no Tentaria and no human cities. Now a bright ray of light falls right in the middle of the hall, gathered by the system of mirrors cunningly hidden throughout the walls. It is unusually crowded here today. A number of figures in official Sanator outfits surround a low marble pedestal, where a body lies with its arms limply spread, prepared for autopsy by the attendant morticians. The body looks even whiter in the moonlight, resembling a marble statue, and the scarlet, cracked wounds look even more unnatural upon it. The St. Elmo brothers are talking quietly, nodding to each other with their heavy beaks. Their voices merge with the crackling torches, filling the room with a low hum like a disturbed beehive. Today all who gathered are, one way or another, involved in the unfolding war with the epidemic. Yet, there comes in the moonlight the cold gleam of a surgical knife, and all conversation abates, giving way to the firm, confident voice of the dissector leading the autopsy. The subject is male, about 20 years old, of regular build, emaciated, liver mortis on the face, clavicle, and internal thigh surfaces. The neck, chest, and abdomen are covered by the characteristic crux inherent to the current epidemic. Presumed cause of death, extensive inner hemorrhage. Pay attention to the face. Silence, please. Note the facial expression of abject horror, possibly pre-exodus hallucinations, commencing secto transversalis. The blade silently slides through the body, opening it like a horrible flesh bud. The dissector dilates the cut. He bends down to the corpse, nearly touching it with his beak, as if he were going to feast on the remnants like real crows do. Cracks inherent to the disease can be observed on the viscera too. Multiple lesions of the stomach and bowel, solar plexus pulverized. The voice of the dissector gets drowned out by the rising ruckus. The Sanators simply can't contain themselves. Ordinary maladies cannot kill so fast. What formerly was but a guess to be proven is now presented to everyone in a clear, unambiguous manner. Disruption of the heart bursa, heart wall. Quarantine the town immediately. Send word. We must return all those who left in the past few weeks. It's the plague spirit, the Kadrat. The mortuary fills with disturbed voices, sounds of footsteps, and the rustle of clothes. Brothers hurry to give orders that may ruin hundreds of lives but save thousands. The orders are followed by the foreboding words. The spirit, the Kadrat. The entire region will be roused. Outposts of crossbowmen will block the roads, and both mounted and foot patrols will move along the forest paths. None will leave Rustad until the spirit claims its own. Beak-headed figures disappear through dark archways until a lone dissector remains by the bodies, continuing to open the flesh, extracting the answers to the malady. For what point would there be in tending the ill without fully knowing the cause? But there may be a hint in the way the Kadrat kills, a secret which will lead the brothers to their target. An exhausted Sanator returns home well past midnight. So much has been done, and only the sleeper knows if they missed something important. Have they missed the way? The chance to save Rustad from ruin? In the weak light of an oil lamp, Richard stays motionless for a moment, in the dimly lit, dusty shed, trying to calm his fearful heart. Breathe in, breathe out. Now that his hands are trembling no more, he can take off the heavy clothes steadily to avoid touching the wet, glossy tar. It doesn't matter that the acolytes have washed the plague off him at the fortress. It doesn't matter that the Scarlet Scarf is not passed by touch. The rules must be followed. No Sanator knows how many times his life has been saved by the instructions that have become his second nature. But a violation of these instructions kills, and it kills suddenly. The night chill makes him shiver after the heavy, humid suit, but Richard does not hurry into the house. Sniffling from the cold, he washes off the remnants of the protective ointment, splashing out the rainwater onto the grass. His feet ache from tiredness, making him get to the bed as soon as possible and fall asleep. And even when the Sanator falls on the pitifully creaking bed, he can't afford a long rest. This night he has to talk to the Shadow, to his faithful Anga. She might notice something he's missed. The dream meets Richard with the familiar twilight, with a maze of walls and aisles branching out into a boundless space. The shapes of inner dwellers slither on the verge of visibility. One only has to concentrate, and the nocturnals will hide from the gaze that destroys their bodies, too fragile in their shapelessness. And to think that he once was totally unable to find his way here. Richard moves through the intricate passages of the inner labyrinth towards the light and the tinkling of bells. Anga's chambers lay deep, and the Sanator has no time to think about the questions he wants to ask the wayward Shadow. Checking something real quick. Excuse me. Okay. Okay. Ah! Oh no. Whoops. I have clicked the wrong button. Let's go back to the... Yes. Okay. What was it? Control. Where was I? So we drove her away this time. Walders, Hines, Weimar's. The dream meets Richard with the familiar twilight, with a maze of walls and inner and aisles branching out into boundless space. The shapes of inner dwellers slither on the verge of visibility. One only has to concentrate, and the nocturnals will hide from the gaze that destroys their bodies, too fragile in their shapelessness. And to think that once he was totally unable to find his way here. Richard moves through the intricate passages of the inner labyrinth towards the light and the tinkling of bells. Anga's chambers lay deep, and the Sanator has time to think about the questions he wants to ask the wayward Shadow. What to say and what to pass over in silence. Despite their consanguinity, both have their secrets and their own hidden agendas. Taking a drink? The Shadow's cenacle has no doors, but he stops at the entrance as usual, asking for permission to enter with a mere glance. Anga likes this little courtesy, and Richard can afford it. The Shadow meets him as she often would, turning aside resentfully with her hands in heavy chains, defiantly exposed. Richard can see a mischievous sparkle in her eyes as she is reading the reaction of her guest. All is well. Are you going Are you going to shame me again, Anga? The shadow casts an eye on him, full of hidden hope, and her chains tinkle like little bells. Are you trying to reassure me again, Richard? Calm me down while you stand before me with the very key to my chains in your hands? What an actress. If only I'd unweave the seals, we'd swap our roles at once. What kind of chains are you preparing for me, Anga? Anga screws her face into a smile, magnetizing the Sanator with her promising gaze. I was never taught to love otherwise. And what about you? Do you still heal those whose time is already measured and whose days are numbered? We will all be carried away by the wind someday, but it's not the reason to refuse salvation to those who can still be caught. The Senator's answer angers her. The shadow rises in her seat as if trying to catch his shoulders and shake him in a desperate attempt to make her point. They loathe you, blind man. Why are you so naive? They tremble when they see your cloak. They shut their doors and shutters. They're afraid to touch your very shadow. I wouldn't blame them for the latter, though. Anga twitches as if she was slapped. She subsides and freezes. Then, with an imperceptible movement, she slides out of her chained body, leaving it seated like a gutless puppet, reappearing so close that Richard feels the heat of her breath. The Sanator doesn't budge. Long past are the times when the shadow's tricks could frighten him or catch him off guard. Whatever Anga does, the key from her chains is always firmly held in his fist. Possessing it means both bliss and torment, and Richard doesn't know whether he will be able to maintain self-control until his very end. Anga whispers, her lips nearly touch Richard's ear, and her words touch his heart with anguish. Say you came here just for me. Say you have no questions for me today. He pretends to be cold. He has no right to fall for her tricks. Do you remember my promise never to lie to you? I keep my word. Your words cut deeper than your knives, Richard. Are you suffering because of a stranger's troubles again? Trying to save those who imprisoned my sisters? Look at it from a different angle. Doesn't my help delay their fall into the sea? Where does the doomed one suffer more? On the scaffold or in prison, dying in his thoughts again and again? Richard speaks softly, but he is adamant under his softness. They are asleep, Agna. Asleep. Your awakening is an exception. We've discussed this before. Anga sighs theatrically and abruptly turns away, slapping his face with her hair. Can't even have a talk with you. Ask then, don't keep me in suspense. Richard sighs tiredly and sits down by the wall, starting his story. The memory obligingly awakens the day's earlier happenings. The barricade, the waif, living and dead houses, the sick, the hospital, the autopsy. The words flow, and a charmed Anga listens to the story about the world she wishes so much to get into the one. Anga listens to the story about the world she wishes so much to get into one day. I am fraught with doubt, Anga. It feels like I'm missing a detail, something irritating like an eye floater. Maybe you can catch something I couldn't? Your doubts are not unreasonable. Today you touched upon something very important for this plague. You did something meaningful. A new path between our dream and the fourth house wouldn't have appeared without reason. Disease walks around, scampering about your feet like a greyhound. Beware, don't miss the moment when she pounces to dig her teeth into your throat. She wants to say more, stretches out her hand to him, but... A knock at the door, fast, frightened. Knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. His head aches. Shade sleep doesn't let the body rest. One of the dues that must be paid for an intimate interaction with the other planes of reality. Richard lingers, gathering himself up to find out what the persistent guest wants. He presses his cold fingers to his temples, driving off the ache for a time. Knock, knock, knock. Yep, dog's barking. What do you want? The Sanator knows the answer already, Half awake, he mistook the bell tolling outside for the aftershocks of his night's visions. Its slow, hollow clangs echo in his heart. A frightened voice behind the door only confirms his fears. The plague is spreading, Brother Sanator. The fortress is shut. The central quarters are closed off by the quarantine cordons. All doctors who aren't ill yet are summoned. You aren't ill, are you? I'm coming. Rush off already. There is no food behind the door. Is old Martha ill, or has she fled, hoping to hide from the march of the pestilence? That doesn't matter. He'll have time to eat later. Now he must hurry. If it's as bad as the messenger said, soon Rustad will be overtaken with panic and chaos. Richard knows that the ravens carrying grim orders from the closed fortress are flying to the local settlements. Even if the brothers can't keep the citizens within the stone trap of the town's walls, they would still have nowhere to run. The street is abandoned and lifeless. The shutters are firmly shut, the doors are closed. But the Sanator feels scratched by dozens of frightened stares through the sundry cracks and narrow attic windows. All the more unexpected is a diminutive shape of the lonely waif, Syl, trudging towards him. Syl looks tired and weak, even more pitiable than yesterday. Her rags are tainted with something, and her eyes shine feverishly. She peers at the houses tensely, as if looking for something, and when she sees Richard, she greets him with a wave of her hand. Crow, you here again? And you're still wandering about? Sleep as eyes, my dear, aren't you sap-headed? Look around. The pestilence is here. Someone could go mad with fear and harm you somehow. This rather innocent remark causes a storm of emotions in Syl. She raises her hands as if pushing someone back and sniffles pitifully, clenching her fists and holding them near her lips. We gotta drive her away. You, as I see, weren't born yesterday. Why are you standing there? Hide and wait. Syl looks disappointed by such an answer. Where should I hide? Let's see. No one will care about you in the fortress now. The Temple of the Sleeper is surely overcrowded. Damn it, just go to... Damn it, just go to my place. Not many would risk getting in there. You can hide in the shed if need be. And what about you? Me? I don't have time for entertaining you. People are dying out there, you know. Strangely, this answer angers Syl, and she screams right in his face. They'll die anyway, you stupid crow. Just run along, or I'll find a minute to spank such a hussy. Richard walks down the street in a hurry, noticing the horrible signs of the spreading plague here and there. The bodies lying on the pavement in dark, sticky puddles, the blood trickling from under the doors. Figures of morticians, shapeless, with all the layers of rags wound around their bodies, busily dragging the corpses into the cart with long hooks. The quarantine is apparently ineffective. Spirits cannot be stopped by barricades and interdictions. They are not scared of the guards' halberds. Even the brothers' patrols are not much of an obstacle for them. The Sanator enters the houses, seeking the dying, looking to ease their last hours. This is not about mercy. No, the faster the one who had drawn the disaster dies, the more chances they have to save the others. Richard knows that the hunters are already prowling about the town in search of the malefic, but it is useless. The Scarlet Scarf is spreading outwards, and it means that the spirit that has brought it is after revenge. One by one, the doors of the dying Rustad are marked with crosses. His doleful work is interrupted in the most unexpected and improper way. A stone thrown at his back surprises Richard more than it wounds him. He is worried by the fact that Anga didn't alert him about the danger. But honestly, is it even a danger? After the second stone is thrown, the Sanator finds it wise to turn and look at the madmen. Indeed, two of them are showing the first signs of the pestilence. Blood on their clothes, pupils dilated with pain. The bigger one takes it better and tries to act tough. The other, the skinny one, just scowls from under his headband. Apparently a criminal gang has crept out of its den. The third one seems familiar to him. He's sure he's seen his face somewhere. Damned crows. Damned crow. Now, which voice should we give this guy? Damned crows. It's you who brought this plague into town. And now you off to kill survivors to put southerners up in our houses. Take off the mask, you bastard, and tell us the truth to our faces. Is that a woman or a man? I don't know. The pathetic shouts of the unfortunate wretches don't move the Sanator at all. These men are dead, but for some reason they don't want to come to terms with that. Murdoch keeps silently staring at the third one. He is still healthy. He can be saved. Why are you quiet, corpse lover? Nothing to say? We'll just keep beating you until you croak. Richard remembers where he saw this face. One contorted with terror, with grizzled temples and bluish white from the loss of blood. Yes, this is the marauder that was taken to the mortuary on Richard's orders. He does not look like a thug. It must be poverty or greed that made him join the bad company. Does that mean he's seeing somebody dead, or what? Yes, this is a marauder that was taken to the mortuary on Richard's orders. Huh. Sanator points to the man standing a little aside from the brawlers, and all three instinctively flinch. Save the floor, please, Anga. Interesting. Let's save the floor. Yesterday your brother died trying to steal gold from a dead house. Will you join him, or will you go away before it's too late? The question is more than enough. The paling lad steps back, drops the club onto the pavement with a muffled tap, and then flees. His comrades are not quite as wise, though. Richard meets the first one running up to him with a punch to the belly. The strike, which would make even a healthy man choke, hurts like hell to the Scarlet Scarf victim. Dropping the club and howling painfully, he falls down and curls up like a fetus. The second one tries to stab the Sanator with a short, dirty knife, but Richard nimbly catches his wrist and strikes him in the elbow, almost without swinging. A wet crack and the clang of metal on the stones. Richard steps back, letting his enemy take in the new, unnatural bend in his arm, which is broken near the elbow. He hates these two. Not for the attack, no. He hates them because Anga will praise him, because they encouraged him to trust the shadow. He hates them so much that he goes away without finishing them off. I don't quite understand. I may have missed something. At midday, the Sanators hold council in the town hall. The fortress is closed, the quarantine outposts are reinforced, and the men guarding them are not afraid of getting infected anymore. A brewing riot has been suppressed for the time being, but for how long? Pins are stuck in the town map on the table. The houses wasted by the plague are marked that way. The paper bristles with iron spikes like a mechanical hedgehog. Richard marks the houses he visited himself, one by one. But something seems strange on the map. There's a sort of pattern in the way the pins becoming arranged. The way the pins have become arranged? Someone's heavy hand on his shoulder makes Richard start. Deep in his thoughts, he hadn't noticed how his old friend, Brother Wygear, came up to him. The latter is also shrouded in formal Sanator vestments, but can be easily recognized by the pattern of the seal adorning his mask. Rick, are you daydreaming? Found out about something, or just trying to appreciate the scale of the disaster? I'm still not sure, Wygear. Take a look yourself. After all, you were more interested in the art of exorcism than I was. The Kadrat's going in circles. Nothing new about that. That's not what I meant. That's not what I mean. Look, here are the streets where it began, and some houses are untouched, though they should have been some of the first. Ah, you mean those? I haven't told you, on the first day of the pestilence, a butcher living there came to us. He paid us handsomely, so we placed seals for him and his neighbors. Even laughed at the simpleton. We thought it was a natural plague then. Now you can see how it's all turned out. So, he bought the seals. How prudent of him. Well, that can explain something. Forget him, Richard. We've got a spirit to catch. The guy just got lucky. It happens. Richard shakes his head, and the beak of his mask wags, waving like a white pendulum above the map. Lucky, was it? Well, Tenebris take him. It's really not the time, but But if it was a summoned Kadrat, I bet the Malefic worked in that house. After talking to Wygir for a while, the Sanator leaves. He'd be happy to dismiss the irregularity he had noticed, but his thoughts keep returning to it every now and then. Could the butcher have seen the spirit hanging up the scarves? Perhaps. Could he have met a Kadrat before? That's also possible. Could he do something that is likely to persuade Melamiliar to release a spirit into reality? There are no good reasons to doubt it. Evidence is needed, though. Richard could just break into his house, but even if there were something, it would surely be well hidden. But if he manages to convince the executors that mischief is afoot, confessions will be extracted much faster. Therefore, Murdoch doesn't go out into the streets of the dying town. Taking the keys and a lamp from an attendant, he goes down into the archives to find anything about the cautious butcher. The town hall cellars meet him with the smell of dampness and old paper. 2 seconds. Got my phone up just to double check the chat here. Okay. The town hall cellars meet him with the smell of dampness and old paper. Everywhere on the shelves are lists of all the citizens and the documents recounting their lives, genealogies, deeds to houses, profiles, and denunciations. Somewhere in there is a man. Excuse me, goodness. Oh, lordy. Okay. Somewhere in here is the man he's interested in. Finding Mr. Heinrich Willebrow was not easy, but certainly worth it. No, there was nothing reprehensible in his papers. He was a rich man who had come to Rostad nearly across the whole of Tentaria, an owner of a prosperous business, a respectable member of the Butchers' Guild, who can consider it suspicious for a butcher to buy several farms in a country for cattle breeding. Who would blame him for making rounds in the villages, buying meat and selling it to the townsfolk? His customers were respectable people. He didn't even need to have a shop at the market. Richard remembered what stirred the far western province of Tentaria 12 years ago. Then the exposed refugees of the Ragazan cultists were burned out by the combined forces of the whole Shield Directory, when crowds of refugees from regions engulfed in a conflict very similar to war could not always be checked carefully enough. He had to make sure that this filth hadn't grown new roots here. Hastily locking the archives, the Sanator hurries outside, leaving the key and the lamp with the attendant. If Mr. Willebrow's neighbors are still alive, they may have noticed something that might substantiate the accusations. Enthralled by the thought of a knot fastening around the neck of the alleged culprit, Richard does not notice how the streets have changed. When he finally sees it, he stops in fear, moving his beaky mask from side to side. Oh, that's not good. In vain hope, as far as the eye can see, the houses are decorated with defiant, brazen scarlet scarves, floating in the imperceptible breeze, fluttering on the carven figures of weather vanes, hanging onto shutters, sweeping from under doors, and slinking out of birds' nests under the eaves of the roofs. Are you enjoying the view? Our cruelty has its consequences. Syl comes from behind his back, and onto the street out of nowhere. Richard steps back from her. The same bright, blood-red scarf is fluttering on the waif's neck. Where have you gotten that thing from? Do you want one too? I got this one at a high cost. A guess pierces the Sanator's mind, but he hesitates and makes one more attempt to save his nearly shattered illusions. Are you ill, or... Forgive me, Crow, for leading you on. It's not so easy to believe the enemy in my line of work. I'd like to understand... Hello, Spironic. How are you doing today? Hope you're doing well. I'd like to understand why you'd even talk to me. A doctor is not a friend of the malady. Syl looks at him in an unusually serious way and cocks her head to the side, suddenly asking, Maybe you think I'm devastating this town on a whim? Amusing myself? Like Certesia? No, I know you came for someone's blood, but you are unable to find it. You're one wise crow, then. How did you know? Maybe you've already found my enemy. I'm not sure yet. There's one likely candidate. Tell me, how are you going to look for him? Syl freezes, thinking. I am doing very well. I was sick for the last couple days, but I think it's mostly passed, feeling good and strong, so now I'm back to streaming. And also, thankfully, my bitrate seems to be holding up, which it hasn't been doing lately. So, should be no issues with this stream, which is a good reason for this to be a good day. Where was I? Right now, I'm just sort of practicing voice acting while trying to get through the rest of the endings in this little visual novel here, which I highly recommend. It's very fun. I don't know necessarily that it's going to spoil much to go through these endings, you know, because it's more of a... I don't know, you got to play through a bunch of these, so you might still want to play through the ending you haven't seen yet if you didn't catch the first stream. Anyway, Syl freezes, but after a few moments she raises her eyes, bright and glowing with malice. I remember the house, the butcher's house. It was never home to me, so the ordeals didn't erase my memories completely. Ooh, We've been doing a bunch of dickhead moves right now. Let's do cheating in prison, so we're just going to go for the bad ending. And you want me to find your murderer's house for you? You won't refuse, will you? I'm not afraid of killing again and again. Time is running out, and the prospect of staying here forever doesn't appeal to me. Richard nods in agreement. You won't know rest until you kill your tormentors, and you won't let us live in peace either. I can't find the house myself. I just wander around, knocking on doors. I'm gonna have to move my... Hold on a second. I'm gonna have to move the transparent chat a little tiny bit. Toggle borders, because it's right where I need to read. So we're gonna put it over here. This won't change anything for you, but okay, there we go. That should do it. Let me just do Control Alt F8 to make sure it's at the front, and we go back. I can't find the house myself. I just wander around, knock on the doors, but it's not there. See you later, Spironic. There are not so many butchers in this town. Besides, I'm quite sure that your murderer is one Heinrich Willebrow. Are you going to trick me? As if showing doubt, the Sanator turns away slightly, but then confidently steps towards Syl. There's a few little spelling errors. There's a way for you to be certain. To take your word for it. Get inside me. If you don't go too crazy in there, I will endure long enough to find your butcher, and the plague will be over and my wounds will heal. She looks at the Sanator in amazement, as if hesitating to believe him. What a crazy offer! Certainly young and strong, but you aren't afraid of aren't you afraid of the torment and the pain of my curse? Accent went all over the place there. Showing no fear or hesitation, Richard looks in the Kadrat's gleaming eyes. I do. Am I not human, after all? But if it's the price of the lives of all the townsfolk, it must be paid. Such words you'd fit well in the court of our Lord Valentine. With such words, you'd fit well in the court of our Lord Valentine. I have no idea who that is. Do you agree? Don't delay. Innocent people are dying outside these walls. Syl comes very close and looks into his eyes, as if trying to guess his thoughts. The Sanator's gaze is straight and honest. The mask falls on the pavement with a thump. The Kadrat touches his lips with a fleeting kiss, and Richard inhales her, takes her all in, hide and hair. Some time is needed to catch his breath, to suppress the untimely joy of his victory. The Sanator is breathing deeply, calming his thundering heart. Let's go, Syl. Try not to kill me before it's time. The cage has shut. Now he can hear her inside him, so close that it seems she is whispering into his ear from inside his head. The malady settles in him like a sated snake, and Richard's chest fills with a warmness that reminds him of a feverish heat. Calor. Soon more symptoms will appear. You're tough on the inside. Others would have already started to lose blood. How else could we fight you, the Kadrat, as equals? Richard walks the narrow streets in a hurry to get as far as possible before Syl starts to realize what the trick is. He must get to the fortress before starting this game of hide and seek. Where are we going? We're not going. We're running, my darling. The Sanator is walking faster, smiling and trying to stay calm as best he can. Syl does not like his answer. Where to? To the butcher's, of course. To the fortress? Richard still tries to be convincing. Each minute is at stake. There are lists of the townsfolk and the houses. Did you think I would know where this Willowborough guy lives? I don't believe you. Stop. If we stop to argue, I could die. You're in my power anyway. I can tear your heart apart if I want to. Richard just grins, looking her straight in the eye. Well, you can try. Hello there. How are you doing today? Richard is focused on walking, trying not to be distracted by the burning sensation around his neck, desperately trying to break him. So must be surprised, very surprised. Although, sooner or later, she'll think about attacking him in different ways and sink herself even deeper into his trap. And now, to the fortress. His head is growing numb. An unexpected weakness makes the doctor's feet go pit-a-pat, and he falls softly on the wet pavement, losing consciousness. It's time to play. Interesting. Richard runs through the meandering labyrinth of the dream again, but this time not alone. Here, a wrathful Syl does not resemble that little waif anymore, and the Nocturnals flee from her in a frightened swarm. Again and again, her hands reach out for the victim and catch nothing. The Sanator dives into the dark tunnels, hides in gloomy, damp passages, leading the spirit further in until he gets to the innermost depths of the dream. Here on the narrow galley lit by the glow of the heart, he has nowhere to run anymore. It is strange, but Richard is smiling. Syl is approaching, her eyes glowing with rage. What did you achieve by cheating me, Crow? Now I'll kill you and return to devastate the town. Do you think that your crow friends will have time to understand what's happening to you? It seems I've forgotten to introduce you to a very nice person. Your tricks won't help you. Richard turns away silently, looking at the light. Syl takes a step towards him and freezes. Be gentle with her, Anga. Out of the Sanator's back. Syl silently darts off, disappearing into the darkness, but the shadow only laughs, looking at her go. Oh, is my stream still running? Oh, it is, okay. Had some weird connectivity issue just now. Where was I? I've always wanted such a toy, Richard. What is her? I think I've lost her voice. I've always wanted such a toy, Richard. Soon, I'll fall asleep for a very long time. Didn't I promise to save you from the sea? My generosity will know no bounds. Wake up. I'll take care of her. Richard awakens, surrounded by crow-like faces, and the glasses of their masks scatter the gleam of sunlight. He is being carried somewhere. The Sanator does not feel the cold. He does not squint as the sun shines into his eyes. A blissful tiredness and a gentle stupor make him relax, and everything around him seems veiled with a thin haze of fantasy. An exorcist brother walking beside him asks something. He looks into his eyes, and Richard smiles unconsciously, moved by his kindness. Oop. It's too late. She's in Oh wait, is this the exorcist talking? It's too late. She's in his dream. He has saved everyone within these walls, and perhaps even more. They say he'll be taken away to the Sanator. Listening on becomes harder for Richard as he loses the thread of the conversation. Entranced by the rhythmic rocking of the steps of those carrying him, he dozes off again. Unga's games take up too much of his strength. Transformed into a living prison for a spirit, Richard was moved to the distant fortress of Corpus Sancti. Sanity? Corpus Sanity, deep in the outcrops of the Milky Mountains. There, hidden from the whole world, was the last harbor of those who managed to... There, hidden from the whole world, was the last harbor of those who managed to immure plague spirits, the Kadrat, inside themselves. They were not allowed to die. Dying would set their prisoners free. I love this crazy, like, fucking science-technical bullshit that's mixed in with plague doctors and whatnot. So, all these people are Sanators who've been infected with plague spirits, the Kadrat, which are beings created by this goddess called Melamiliar, and basically, like, hurled back into reality. They're made from the souls of dead people and, like, hurled back into reality for various ends. And, yeah, so Sanators tend to deal with these plagues, and the Kadrat, which is, the ones that created by Melamiliar, are particularly deadly. And they can be taken in, Sanators can trap them within themselves, where they're basically bound by their shadow partner. And so long as Richard lives, even if living is in, like, a cryogenic tube, the plague will remain contained. For months, the acolytes prepared Richard's body for a cold slumber in the deep dungeons of the fortress. They grew an incarnadine lacework of rune steel connectors on his body. They replaced the blood in his veins with the red oil. They drew the intricate signs of the steel on his chest. And when everything was done, Richard Murdoch was laid down in the ark, amidst frosty puffs, and his body was coupled to the mechanisms dating back to the times of the Aelur. The attendants who covered the sarcophagus with a heavy lid said afterwards he was smiling to the very end, and the ice bound his face. What is this shit? Look at all those fucking coffins. Eternity smells of cold was the achievement we just got. Well, interesting. So that's 2 endings we've received. I think there's 2 more. Okay. Let me see here. Don't really remember where we... Let's go start. Scarlet Scarf. And then we'll... Gonna skip forward. We're gonna let Syl follow this time. Inwardly appreciating the waif's courage, Richard asks her sternly, "Aren't you afraid of catching the plague? What if I touch you with my shadow?" "Keep your shadow to yourself, Crow. What should I be afraid of? It will be worse if I stay alone and walk around the houses out of boredom." "I really should spank you, but how can I lay a hand on such a baby?" Richard throws up his arms, thinking to himself for a moment before continuing. "Sleep will forgive you. Let's go then. But don't follow me into the houses, or I'll get angry." All right. I'll sit on the doorsteps, and why is it you can go in, but I can't?" "There's no spare crow head for you. Sorry." The Sanator's joke doesn't seem to have impact. The waif apparently takes it at face value. "I don't want a crow's head. Will it save you, though? You think the Scarfer will be scared?" "He must be scared of somebody, so why not us? We're the enemies of those like him, and our enmity has no quarter." "So the Scarf is not alone? Well, that's scary. Don't stay inside for too long. What if they all come here at once?" Richard grunts skeptically, thinking to himself that it would be too easy. "What nonsense! All at once? Honestly, I don't believe there's even one." "Ah, see you down? Let's go then. He might show himself to you. We're gonna go to the Walders first. Yes, here are the Walders' doors. Richard's heard a bit about this prosperous family who earn their wealth as cloth merchants. Some say their children stay at the home only for a few days during the year, occupied with business affairs. Earlier, Richard thought it to be a sign of human greed, but who knows? Maybe it was better for them anyway. Raising the knocker, Richard suddenly stops. Was it his imagination, or did a slight moan just come from inside the house? Holding his breath, he listens, hoping to prove his fears. Dark, scary house. Aren't you afraid to go in? A bit disgruntled with her intervening, Sanator puts a finger to his beak, telling the waif to be quiet. Shh! Can't you hear that? Someone's groaning inside. A woman sounds like. Taking no notice of Syl, Richard pushes against the door with all his weight. It seems to be unlocked, yet it moves strenuously, like there's something behind it. Sanator's frantic pushing meets with more resistance, as if someone heaped up flour sacks against the door from the inside. Just cross out the door and be done with it. Anyway, they're all dead in there. Or have you really got a cure? Breathing out heavily with each push, Richard still finds the time to answer. We don't do things that way in the Brotherhood. Don't you hear the moans? Someone is still alive. You still can't cure her. No way you ever could, Crow. Maybe a scintillate would have a chance. Scintillate. I wonder, all these terms are good flying around. We're going to have to look at the, lore section once we get all the endings here. You still can't cure her. No way you ever could, Crow. Maybe a scintillate would have a chance. Scintillate? You could give me a hand instead. I can't leave her like that. If I can't save her, then I'll just put her to sleep and make her death peaceful. Syl giggles as if she's heard something amusing. So that's what you're like. Well, take that log and don't faff about. There's a sturdy one. Good for a strut. Thanks for that, oh wise waif. Don't even think to go after me. You'll get tainted. And what if the scarf snatches me while you're busy poisoning people in there? Perhaps you might shorten that tongue of yours. The log really helps in cracking the door open. When the dark gap becomes wide enough to enter, the Sanator fearlessly steps inside. No wonder the door was so hard to open. A heavyset man died unlocking it, and his blood-stained body lies in the dark hallway. Someone is breathing heavily and sobbing inside the house. Richard can't find a candle, so he moves to the darkness of the strange house to open the shutters. To open the shutters wide by unhinging the hook, his sensitive hearing picks up all sorts of tiny details. Flies buzzing, leaves whispering outside, and a dripping sound. Oh, Richard does know what those drops are. Daylight illuminates the dying one. A bleeding woman lies limply among the sheets, and Richard, as he bends down to her, realizes he's useless here. The malady overtook her and her husband while they were asleep. It's terrible to imagine how they awoke from the pain, realizing in horror that they'd soon be dead. Judging by the red track leading to the door, Mr. Walder had found the strength to crawl to the entrance and call for help, but only managed to unbolt the door before dying. The chance he had wanted to give to his wife was unreachable. Richard doesn't even try to inspect Mrs. Walder's wounds. Her bed and clothes are soaked with blood, and it's really a wonder she's still alive. Feverish sparks in her eyes and wide-blown pupils, nearly covering the iris, show clearly that she is suffering, and she watches the Sanator steadily in hope of salvation. A phial of opium tincture appears from his gripsack, and bitter drops start falling one by one between her thirsty bluish lips, enough to make her sleep and be relieved from unnecessary suffering. He can't afford to do any more than that. Not long ago, it was difficult for him to stay near to those whom he had refused to let live. Let me see. Hello again, Spironic. Let me make sure that My transparent chat thing is up because I didn't see your message there. Okay, yeah, it is. Got it. Cool. Where was I? Yep, welcome back. Let me just check some. Wait, that should bring it. There we go. Okay, had to bring the transparent chat thing back to the front here. Okay. Let's see. Not long ago, it was difficult for him to stay near those whom he had refused to let live. But now Richard holds the weak hand of Mrs. Walder as she is falling asleep, until the vein in her neck stops pulsating. Yes, he could awaken the shadow, plunge into those depths, and stretch his saving hand to the woman lying in front of him, tear her out of death's grasp. But he won't. Not because it is forbidden by the Sanator's regulations, not because she is useless for him and for the Brotherhood. Not all can bear life on a leash. Not all can bear life on the leash. Life near the one to whom you owe your salvation, and the one you cannot leave until your death. Mrs. Walder wouldn't do. The weird lore in this game is crazy. They just imply so much, and they don't say a whole lot about it. I think it's got really good world building. I don't know how to describe it. So apparently he could save this woman's life, but that would require making a deal with his shadow, which is a sort of like otherworldly being that's bound to him. And what it would imply, if he did use it to bring her back to life, would be that she would have to basically like follow him around until he died, pretty much. Like she'd be sort of like bound to him in some way. So he chooses not to because it would be like it wouldn't be a good life for her, maybe. It's hard to say. But yeah, it's so much crazy lore. I'm gonna have to read through the lore sections after we get the final ending. But where was I? Leaving the now deserted house, Richard shuts the door tight and marks it with a wide cross. At night, the morticians will wrap the bodies in tar-soaked hides and take them out of town to where the ashes of yesterday's fires are still smoldering. Thus far, it is still possible to burn the corpses. So you're drawing it after all. How many died? Grieved by the sight of death, the Sanator does not want to pretend to be carefree anymore. Why should you care? They're all dead. If you want to pilfer something in there, forget it. I don't want the mortician to cart you away, too. Cart me away? Huh. If you say so, I won't go in. So, who was that moaning? The one who was is no more. We wouldn't have been able to even get her to the hospital. And now it's over for her. People call all of you crows murderers for a reason. These simple words prick the Sanator's pride a lot, so he angrily rebukes the waif. Watch your mouth. Not all of us would forgive such riotous talk. We can't save everyone, yes, but we have to be ruthless because our enemy is much crueler. If not us? Syl steps back, not expecting such an abrupt change in his mood, and raises her hands as if expecting Richard to lunge at her. No offense, Crowman. I didn't really mean it that way. A lot of people say so. You can't help it. The Sanator has already steadied himself, and now feels awkward for shouting at this simple girl. He's trying to hide his uneasiness behind an expressly cold tone. Keep doing the job. Fools would wag their tongues. Don't listen to them. Better to ask those who were refused at the fortress in daytime and were treated at night by people wearing crow masks. I always feel like I'm misreading these sentences a little bit. I believe this game was originally written in Russian, and they did great work translating it, but I think some of it kind of doesn't track particularly well. Keep doing the job. Fools would wag their tongues. Don't listen to them. Better to ask those who were refused at the fortress in daytime and treated at night by people wearing crow masks. I won't listen then. You only look wicked, but it's not true. I swear I'll hit you with this stick. All right, I'll be quiet. Hines' house. Tiger violets are quite conspicuous on the Hines windows, just as Winfred had said. Richard hears voices inside. That's already a reason to be happy. It seems a woman is telling some children off for something, and there are footsteps and laughter. Children, not yet affected by the all-pervading terror, Children not yet affected by the all-pervading terror. No, the malady hasn't come here yet. But the scarf's proven to be a reliable indication, and Richard must knock and ask. Excuse me, goodness. Merry people live here, kind ones. Would be a pity if they fell ill. Avis says someone's seen a Scarlet Scarf on the house. This should be checked. We may yet save some lives. The waif seems to be amazed by the news, despite recently assuring Richard that the scarfer is real. Where could it come from? Who'd hang it? The scarfer? As if you haven't heard that infected houses are marked with it. Many have seen it. Still, I don't know who hangs them. Maybe the plague itself. It's happened before. The scarfer was not made up from nothing. Yes, for anybody who wasn't here last stream, plagues are alive, which he'll explain a little bit later. This indirect confirmation sparks Sill's curiosity. So, it happened before. Can you tell me, Crow, how can a plague be alive? I'd tell you, but then you won't sleep at night. I guess you're pulling my leg, but I'm not a fool. Just young. How could it be a living disease? I'd rather believe in a scarfer walking around. This naive attempt at provocation moves the Sanator, but for the sake of appearances, he decides not to surrender so quickly. Stay quiet for a bit, please. I'll check the house and then tell you if you must know. After a few knocks, the curtains open, and some frightened yet curious children stare at Richard. Someone fumbles with the lock behind the door, and at last opens, but just a little, hesitating to let the scary guest in. What do you want, good brother? Are you all well in there? Thanks be to the sleeper, we are all right. We are all right. No one is ill, and the children have had their hands washed. People say they've seen a Scarlet Scarf, the mark of the plague, on your house. Do you know anything about that? The woman's voice trembles as if she's ready to curse and swear, or burst into tears. Oh, Elmo, protect us. We haven't seen anything like that. Maybe it's Grandpa's bed cap drying outside. There it is, the red one. Indeed, it looks like that from afar. You might take it off, though, so as not to call attention. It's a bad omen these days. Yes, I will do that right away. Who would have thought? The Senator feels that something is not quite as it should be, that there is something apart from the plague that's frightened her. Have you seen anything suspicious, by the way? Maybe someone breaking the quarantine? Oh, it was so scary last night. There were footsteps and rustling, and it sounded like someone moaning. Must be that damn scarfer dragging someone to the netherworld. Richard sighs, wanting to shield his mind from this nonsense. Or some marauders dragging sacks of loot? How could anyone be brave enough to make sure? What if he looks back at you and then breaks into your house? The woman stammers, apparently imagining the scene in detail, and then, picking up her courage, continues louder and grumpier. No, I myself won't look, and I won't let the children do so either. This is not the time to go looking around. Not the time for looking around. Well, keep ye safe and sound. May the sleeper keep you, good brother. In contrast to the polite farewell, the door immediately slams shut. People are not to be blamed for their superstitious fears. Even the Sanators themselves don't always know what brings the maladies, and the commoners know much less. That's why Richard doesn't take offense at Mrs. Hine. Rather, he is glad that a possible casualty is averted for the moment. The waif, dangling her feet, waits for the Sanator while waiting on the steps across the street. When she catches sight of Richard, she smiles cunningly, as if she knew that all would end well. You shouldn't sit on cold stones. You'll catch a cold and won't ever have children. For a moment, Syl looks serious and sad, but she immediately returns to her common, sly shamelessness. Why should an orphan need children? You promised something, Gov. Do you remember? If you get married, won't you stop being an orphan? Get up or I won't tell you anything. Sighing, she obeys, following the rules of his game. I'm getting up, all right. What about the living diseases, huh? There are two kinds of those. The summoned ones, sent by maleficars, and self-born or equitable ones. They're all spirits, ex-humans, serving the plague maiden, Mela Miliar. All are dangerous and blind, killing the guilty and the innocent indiscriminately. But if to banish the summoned illness, it's enough to kill the warlock who that had casted it. But if to banish the summoned illness, it's enough to kill the warlock that had casted it. The self-born one, on the other hand, will disappear when all the guilty are dead. And you? And you? I've completely lost her voice. And you? Do you catch them? Richard only shrugs his shoulders in response. Easy to say. We hunt maleficars, and the self-born ones are stopped only by quarantine. If we don't let the guilty escape, they'll die sooner or later, and others will be saved. Don't you pity the people? We pity them a lot, but do we have a choice? If they scatter, there won't be any respite from the plague. Thousands died like that in the past, and whole regions were deserted. Now, it's all done otherwise. Science. Seems like the Sanator's boasting doesn't impress Syl. She only laughs in response. So that's how it is. Oh my god, I've completely lost her voice. I'm gonna take a drink real quick. So that's how it is. Well, we'll see your science yet. Aren't you brave, you draggletail? If you found a bubo on yourself, you'd run to the fortress right away. Weimar's house. A chalk-drawn cross can be seen on the door from afar, marking the house emptied by the plague. Richard stops at the entrance, pondering the situation. What could a scarlet scarf on an already death-marked house mean? Maybe someone was hiding inside and has now become ill. Have you guys been here yet? There's someone behind. No, we never do that. They won't board up the healthy ones. Maybe we got the wrong house? It's not wrong. Look, scratches on the door are fresh, not from nails. The waif's remark catches the Sanator off guard. Until the last moment, he hadn't wanted to believe that someone really would go around stealing things from the infected quarter. Where? Oh, those stupid people. The boards used by the morticians to close up the door have been surreptitiously detached. No need to guess who it could be. The marauders. Fools wishing to steal valuables from infected houses, counting on dumb luck. You'd better hide, girl. Who knows what's on their minds now? They may still be in there. Now you, Crow, call your brethren. These thieves could flee while I look for help. No, I won't back off, but you can run and call the guards. It seems the Senator's courage does not boost Syl's confidence. And what if they kill you in there? A man can die but once. I'm a brother, after all. We don't die that easy. Now run. The broken door creaks pitifully, letting the beaked-faced doctor in. He has left his grip sack near the entrance, and now holds his faithful cane in both hands, ready to meet the desperate marauders or the Scarfer himself. But these precautions prove quite unneeded. Richard can see a semi-supine figure by the open dresser. Nearby, an open sack with some belongings lies abandoned. Apparently it won't be of use to the thief anymore. The Sanator approaches the wretch cautiously, but the pool of blood around him indicates that the man is surely dead. His face is twisted with deadly terror, and his pose shows that he was surprised by someone. But who could that be? The malady developed so rapidly that he could hardly sit up. The Sanator finds a candle end in the kitchen and carefully examines the body. Each day the malady seems to grow more virulent, killing its victims ever faster. And Richard knows that diseases don't normally work like this. At least the ordinary diseases don't. After making sure that the dead body bears no signs of assault and that any accomplices have fled, the Sanator leaves the twice-cursed house. He must inform the brethren at the fortress. Maybe the acolytes will have time to prepare this body for the evening autopsy. Richard has no doubt it must be done. Now he has to calm down the guards. Minute after minute passes, and there is still nobody on the streets. No whistles, no clatter of rough boots on the pavement. Has something happened to the girl? Has she been caught? The waif is alive and apparently sound. She sits in the same lane where Richard found her the first time. Her face in her knees, and she seems to be sobbing. Could the guards have offended the waif? Certainly one could have pushed her with the butt end of his spear. What could be simpler? No one would intercede for her, and she can't protect herself. Hearing Richard's steps, she raises her eyes and smiles timidly. She's glad to see the Sanator in one piece. Hey, you all right? Why didn't the gods come? Syl answers, swallowing her tears and trying to smile. The gods are fools. They didn't even listen to me. But you're alive. Alive. Of course I'm alive. Those guys already fled. At least some of them. And those who didn't? One's lying in there. We'll collect him for autopsy by the evening. Well, don't repeat his mistake. Don't go into the houses. It seems the incident has impressed her enough to stop joking around. No, I won't. It's much better to be outside. It's much better outside. Sanator looks at the waif's patched clothes and realizes that he must do something for her. Not so many little girls can confront him like that, after all. You will be really cold at night. I'll bring you something to eat. Don't trouble yourself, kind crow. We have a lot going on anyway. Good people will feed me, as always. As long as the quarter is quarantined, Syl can't get out. Should he make sure that she won't be driven out from whatever shelter she might find? Yes, perhaps. Yes, perhaps. Later. If that's so, then may the sleeper save you. May he save you, Crow. Richard goes to the guards' outpost, about to tell them off for neglecting their duties. It's one thing to play dice when the streets are quiet, but it's quite another to drive away a child who's asking for help, not to mention the interests of the Brotherhood, which are being affected too. But his anger is met with incomprehension. Richard chafes and drubs the pavement with his stick. The guards just stare at each other and shrug their shoulders. From the start of the morning, there was not a soul on the streets. No waifs, no little girls calling for help. The Sanator wouldn't believe them at a different time, but now he backs off. The guards seem not to be lying. Could the girl have lost her courage and just lied to him about coming up to the guards? She indeed might have. Most likely the poor thing was sitting there, blaming herself for her cowardice, thinking the Sanator might get killed because of her. Well, all's well that ends well. He shouldn't return to scold her, should he? Richard must report back to the fortress, before continuing vain labors at the hospital. More fruitless efforts to retain the lives trickling from dying bodies. Trying again and again, failing again and again until the sun hides behind the pointy roofs, and the cool breeze of the evening brings a short respite to the patients desperately gasping for air. Twilight forever reigned under the dank mortuary's vaulting. Even at the brightest noon, the sun rays hardly pierced the narrow windows on the thick stone walls. Stretching a little bit. Okay. Smoky, tarry torches attempted to bring in light, but all in vain, as they were only blackening the mildewed stones, weeping with condensation. But how it would all change on a moonlit night. This room was built ages ago, in the times of the Aelur, when there was no Tentaria and no human cities. Now a bright ray of light falls right in the middle of the hall, gathered by a system of mirrors cunningly hidden inside the walls. It is unusually crowded here today. A number of figures in official Sanator outfits surround a low marble pedestal, where a body lies with its arms limply spread, prepared for autopsy by the attendant morticians. The body looks even whiter in the moonlight, resembling a marble statue, and the scarlet cracked wounds look even more unnatural upon it. St. Elmo brothers are talking quietly, nodding to each other with their heavy beaks. Their voices merge with crackling torches, filling the room with a low hum like a disturbed beehive. Today all who gathered are one way or another involved in the unfolding war with the epidemic. Yet there comes in the moonlight the cold gleam of a surgical knife, and all conversation abates, giving way to the firm, confident voice of the dissector leading the autopsy. The subject is male, about 20 years old, of regular build, emaciated, liver mortis on the face, clavicle, internal thigh surfaces. The neck, chest, and abdomen are covered by the characteristic cracks inherent to the current epidemic. Presumed cause of death, extensive inner hemorrhage. Pay attention to the face. Silence, please. Note the facial expression of abject horror, possibly pre-Exodus hallucinations. Commencing Sectio Transversalis. The blade silently slides through the body, opening it like a horrible flesh bud. The dissector dilates the cut. He bends down to the corpse, nearly touching it with his beak, as if he's going to feast on the remnants like the real crows do. Cracks inherent to the disease can be observed on the viscera, too. Multiple lesions of the stomach, the bowel, solar plexus pulverized. The voice of the dissector gets drowned out by the rising ruckus. The Sanator simply can't contain themselves. Ordinary maladies cannot kill so fast. What formerly was but a guess has proven now present. What formerly was but a guess to be proven is now presented to everyone in a clear, unambiguous manner. Disruption of the heart bursa, heart wall. Quarantine the town immediately. Send word. We must return all those who left in the past few weeks. It's the plague spirit, the Kadrat. The mortuary fills with disturbed voices, sounds of footsteps and the rustle of clothes. Brothers hurry to give orders that may ruin hundreds of lives, but save thousands. The orders are followed by the foreboding words, the spirit, the Kadrat. The entire region will be roused. Outposts of crossbowmen will block the roads, and both mounted and foot patrols will move along the forest paths. No one will leave Rushtad until the spirit claims its own. Beak-headed figures disappear through dark archways until a lone dissector remains by the bodies, continuing to open the flesh, extracting the answers to the malady. For what point would there be in tending the ill without fully knowing the cause? But there may be a hint in the way the Kadrat kills, a secret which will lead the brothers to their target. An exhausted Sanator returns home well past midnight. So much has been done, and only the sleeper knows if they've missed something important. Have they missed the way, the chance to save Rushtad from ruin? In the weak light of an oil lamp, Richard stays motionless for a moment in the dimly lit, dusty shed, trying to calm his fearful heart. Breathe in, breathe out. Now that his hands are trembling no more, he can take off the heavy clothes steadily to avoid touching the wet, glossy tar. It doesn't matter that the acolytes have washed the plague off of him at the fortress. Doesn't matter that the Scarlet Scarf is not passed by touch. The rules must be followed. No Sanator knows how many times his life has been saved by the instructions that have become his second nature. But a violation of these instructions kills, and it kills suddenly. The night chill makes him shiver after the heavy, humid suit, but Richard does not hurry into the house. Sniffling from the cold, he washes off the remnants of the protective ointment, splashing out the rainwater onto the grass. His feet ache from tiredness, making him get to bed as soon as possible and fall asleep. And even when the Sanator falls on the pitifully creaking bed, he can't afford a long rest. This night he has to talk to the Shadow, to his faithful Anga. She might notice something he's missed. The dream meets Richard with the familiar twilight, with a maze of walls and aisles branching out in a boundless space. The shapes of inner dwellers slither on the verge of visibility. One only has to concentrate, and the nocturnals will hide from the gaze that destroys their bodies, too fragile in their shapelessness. And to think that he was once totally unable to find his way here. Richard moves through the intricate passages of the inner labyrinth, towards the light and the tinkling of bells. Anga's chambers lay deep, and the Sanator has time to think about the questions he wants to ask the wayward Shadow. What to say and what to pass over in silence. Despite their consanguinity, both have their secrets and their own hidden agendas. The Shadow's cenacle has no doors, but he stops at the entrance as usual, asking for permission to enter with a mere glance. Anga likes this little courtesy, and Richard can afford it. The Shadow meets his gaze as she often would, turning aside resentfully with her hands in chains defiantly exposed. Richard can see a mischievous sparkle in her eyes as she is reading the reaction of her guest. All is well. Are you going to shame me? Oh, no, this is Richard talking. Are you going to shame me again, Anga? The Shadow casts an eye on him, full of hidden hope, and her chains tinkle like little bells. Are you trying to reassure me again, Richard? Calm me down while you stand before me with the very key to my chains in your hands? I need to get a better voice for her. Something duskier. What an actress. If only I'd unweave the seals, we'd swap our roles at once. What kind of chains are you preparing for me, Anga? Anga screws her face into a smile, magnetizing the Sanator with her promising gaze. I was never taught to love otherwise. And what about you? Do you still heal those whose time is already measured and whose days are numbered? We will all be carried away by the wind someday, but it's not the reason to refuse salvation to those who can still be caught. The Senator's answer angers her. The shadow rises in her seat as if trying to catch his shoulders and shake him, in a desperate attempt to make her point. They loathe you, blind man. Why are you so naive? They tremble when they see your cloak, they shut their doors and shutters, they're too afraid to touch your very shadow. I wouldn't blame them for the latter, though. Anga twitches as if she was slapped. She subsides and freezes. Then, with an imperceptible movement, she slides out of her chained body, leaving it seated like a gutless puppet, reappearing so close that Richard feels the heat of her breath. The Sanator doesn't budge. Long past are the times when the Shadow's tricks could frighten him or catch him off guard. Whatever Anga does, the key from her chains is always firmly held in his fist. Possessing it means both bliss and torment, and Richard doesn't know whether he will be able to maintain self-control until his very end. Anga whispers, her lips nearly touching Richard's ear, and her words touch his heart with anguish. Say you came here just for me. Say you have no questions for me today. He pretends to be cold. He has no right to fall for her tricks. Do you remember my promise, never to lie to you? I keep my word. Your words cut deeper than your knives, Richard. Are you suffering because of a stranger's troubles again? Trying to save those who have imprisoned my sisters? Look at it from a different angle. Doesn't my help delay their fall into the sea? Where does the doomed one suffer more? On the scaffold or in prison, dying in his thoughts again and again? Richard speaks softly, but he is adamant under his softness. They are asleep, Anga, asleep. Your awakening is an exception. We've discussed this before. Anga sighs theatrically and abruptly turns away, slapping his face with her hair. I can't even have a talk with you. Ask then, don't keep me in suspense. Richard sighs tiredly and sits down by the wall, starting his story. The memory obligingly awakens the day's earlier happenings. The barricade, the waif, living in dead houses, the sick, the hospital, the autopsy. The words flow and flow, and a charmed Anga listens to the story about the world she wishes so much to get into one day. I am fraught with doubt, Anga. It feels like I'm missing a detail, something irritating like it. Excuse me. Talking too fast and swallowed something down the wrong pipe. Something irritating like an eye floater. Maybe you can catch something I couldn't? Your doubts are not unreasonable. Today you touched upon something very important for this plague. You did something meaningful. A new path between our dream and the fourth house wouldn't have appeared without reason. Disease walks around, scampering about your feet like a greyhound. Beware. Don't miss the moment when she pounces to dig her teeth into your throat. She wants to say more, stretches out her hand to him, but... A knock at the door. Excuse me, goodness. A knock at the door. Fast, frightened. Knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. His head aches. The shade sleep doesn't let the body rest. One of the dues that must be paid for an intimate interaction with other planes of reality. Richard lingers, gathering himself up to find out what the persistent guest wants. He presses his cold fingers to his temples, driving off the ache for a time. Knock, knock, knock. What do you want? The Sanator knows the answer already. Half awake, he mistook the bell tolling outside for the aftershocks of his night visions. Its slow, hollow clangs echo in his heart. A frightened voice behind the door only confirms his fears. Plague is spreading, Brother Sanator. The fortress is shut. The central quarters are closed off by the quarantine cordons. All doctors who are not yet ill are summoned. You aren't ill, are you? I'm coming. Rush off already. There's no food behind the door. Is old Martha ill, or has she fled, hoping to hide from the march of the pestilence? That doesn't matter. He'll have time to eat later. Now he must hurry. If it's as bad as the messenger said, soon Rushtad will be overtaken with panic and chaos. I am going to take a quick break, folks, because I need to check something, get some water, and yeah, I'll be back very shortly. And I am back. Whew. Okay. Let's continue. Richard knows that the ravens carrying grim orders from the closed fortress are flying to the local settlements. Even if the brothers can't keep the citizens within the stone trap of the town's walls, they would still have nowhere to run. The street is abandoned and lifeless. Taking a drink. The street is abandoned and lifeless. The shutters are firmly shut and the doors are closed, but the Sanator feels scratched by dozens of frightened stares through the sundry cracks and narrow attic windows. And all the more unexpected is a diminutive shape of the lonely waif, Syl, trudging towards him. Syl looks tired and weak, even more pitiable than yesterday. Her rags are tainted with something, and her eyes shine feverishly. She peers at the houses tensely, as if looking for something, and when she sees Richard, she greets him with a wave of her hand. Crow, you here again? And you're still wandering about? Sleeper's eyes, my dear, aren't you sap-headed? Look around, the pestilence is here. Someone can go mad with fear and harm you somehow. This rather innocent remark causes a storm of emotions in Syl. She raises her hands as if pushing someone back and sniffles pitifully, clenching her fists and holding them near her lips. Okay, we're going to save here because I think there's 2 endings we can get to now. And this is like the diverging point. So we're going to... We're going to take care of Syl, and then... okay. We'll reload if this just brings us to the same ending we got before. The Sanator stands in front of Syl at a loss, amazed by his own thoughts. What is the current price of this waif's life, after all? How many little girls are suffocating in pain now, trying to breathe in a way that won't disturb the horrible Scarlet Scarf marks? But the look of Syl, who's nearly crying, doesn't let him just go away. What can he do in town, after all? Must he put to sleep a few more scores of citizens? All will be in vain. The Brotherhood is losing this battle, so why shouldn't they just let the Scarf finish it? He must care for the living, not for the dead. Even if the dead can still move and breathe. Richard gathers his thoughts and speaks up kindly, trying to calm Syl down. If you have nowhere to go, you can live with me for a while. We'll find a place for you after the plague, so you'll be all right. She looks at him mistrustfully, as if gauging his sincerity, then asks quietly, Can I? Really? Are you trying to trick me, Crow? You seem to think I have some indecent plans. This suggestion somehow makes Syl smile. In no way you could. If you were one of those, you'd have tried to do it all yesterday. Do you even know what you're talking about? You should be ashamed to ask a woman about those things, Crow. Well, where's your home? Richard wants to scold her, but stops. The streets make children age fast. It's better not to think about it. You're calling yourself a woman, Pimple. Better stay quiet and follow me. I'm coming. Just don't get angry. So waits patiently for Richard while he takes off the outfit, which has had no time to warm up on him. She has calmed down and cheered up a bit after his invitation, but is still sniffling, either from the cold or swallowing the tears that remain hidden. You look different without your beak, Crow. Are you surprised? We're all humans, even if we wear masks. She thinks about it for a few moments, only answering Richard after a while. All humans. Yes, maybe. Are you cold, perhaps? Asked the girl, standing barefoot on cold stone. Come in, it's warm inside. Perching on a chair, Syl looks around Richard's room with interest, but doesn't touch anything. Meanwhile, Richard rummages downstairs, collecting the food left in the house on a tray. Soon he appears in the doorway carrying a simple breakfast: bread, cheese, and a jar of honey he found in the cellar. And to make sure, double checking. Right, make sure that the Oh, nope, nope, hold on. Hold up. I've accidentally clicked something wrong. Let me load this. Okay. And we'll kind of, there we go. Bread, cheese, and a jar of honey he found in the cellar. The pot is heating, so we'll drink something hot soon. Do have a bite. Syl turns aside, answering quietly. I don't want... Are you ill? How could it be that you don't want to eat? I've been fed. Don't be shy, come on. Here's some honey, take as much as you'd like. It's strange, but here at Richard's, she rapidly becomes serious and withdrawn, like an animal caught in a cage. It's strange, but here at Richard's, she rapidly becomes serious and withdrawn, like an animal caught in a cage. You're a good man, Crow. I shouldn't have come to you. Nonsense. You can eat later. Surely you'll want to. You'll surely want to. Richard sits on his bed, stretching his tired legs and leaning against the warm wall. His eyelids are getting heavy, but falling asleep without deciding where to put up Syl would be an unforgivable weakness. She's just sitting there, looking at him, not willing to touch the food. What has she seen in the cruel backyards of town? Why is she acting so strangely? Your name is Syl, right? I'm Richard. Brother Richard Murdoch. Yes, but I'll still call you Crow. Richard raises his hands peacefully, smiling. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. I'm not touchy. How long have you lived on the streets? No, I just can't find my way home. I'm walking around, peeking in windows, asking. You seem to be in deep water. Why didn't you go to the fortress or the town hall? Someone must be looking for you, no? Why should I go there? I wasn't living there. And they're not looking for me. Perhaps they're even hiding from me. Something doesn't add up. But could the waif have a strange story? She's not the first to be abandoned by their parents, too poor to feed their children. What kind of parents do you have that would hide from their own daughter? And a house is big, not a thing to hide in the pocket. I have no parents, but I'll find my way home. Anyway, I'll try hard. Now is not the best time for searching. The town will soon go insane, and I can't ensure your safety then. Hopeless people are capable of doing horrible things. Syl frowns as if she's going to cry. But I must keep looking, or I may run out of time. Tell me about this house, Syl. Maybe I know it or have seen it? The butcher's house. I was a servant there. Which one? My head is swimming. A tall one made of stone with a heavy door and a big cellar. Syl shudders from her memories. Richard's face hardens with each of her words, and he has a baleful gleam in his eye. He feels that he has come close to some terrible secret, a witness to something that needs a special brotherhood's attention. Don't be afraid. They won't find you here. It was they who mistreated you? I'm not afraid anymore. Whatever they've done seems so immaterial now. Then show me your neck. Richard. Syl looks with a twinkle in her eyes, smiling somehow coyly, as if to accuse the Sanator of conspiring to possess her. But she's met with a cold stare, sharp as a surgical knife, making her fall silent. And then slowly, as if ashamed, Syl pulls back the rags covering her neck. The carmine bloody scarf flutters in the humanly imperceptible wind. The first who dares to break the oppressive silence is Syl. You knew everything from the beginning, didn't you? The Sanator's voice is calm again, calm in the same way as when he talks to Anga. But his manner in speaking the words gives Richard away. No, I could have guessed, but in the end I didn't. I wanted to believe. In an orphan who's not afraid of your shadow. Having a family is not a custom, but no one forbids taking apprentices. You could become a doctor, perhaps. Are you going to try killing me? They say brothers can hurt spirits just like the living. Tell me everything. Even if we have to fight later, your tormentors will be punished. I want justice. Syl looks at him in amazement, as if hearing something unexpected. Justice? Don't you protect all good men of Tentaria? Good men, Syl. Only good ones. Now tell me, time is running out. Syl tells him softly, sometimes pausing for a moment to hold her tears back. I was born in a hamlet by the Morlhyorn? I was born in a hamlet by the Morlhorn Swamp. I was born in a hamlet by the Morlhorn Swamps. Morlhorn? Oh my god, why can I not say this? Morlhorn. Morlhorn Swamps. The butcher took me in as a servant. No, perhaps he bought me from my parents when I was very young. It seems even funny to have to complain about the shouting, the beatings, the cold, and the lumber room under the staircase, but it felt very hard and unfair at the time. Sometimes I saw guests coming in by the back door. They all went to the cellar and shut the door firmly. The guests went home in the morning, and they always lacked one or two. What could I understand back then? The first time I tried to escape, the drunken master caught me near the lumber room and tried to rape me, and then the next day his wife burned my back with a poker. Then I learned what the guests were doing in the cellar. One of them left a knife inside me, and night by night I loosened the stones in the old brickwork from where the breeze was blowing. When they caught me the second time, they wouldn't leave me alive. The guests were looking on as the butcher flayed me. I was still alive when he took hold of my bleeding neck and pulled my skin down to my feet in one move. The Sanator's voice is terrifying. Now he really sounds like the one that scares naughty children into line. The cult of Rakazagan, right under our nose at that. Syl, now your tormentor will learn much more about pain in the Executor's dungeons than you ever did. No, no. Mistress Meliar made a deal with me. Each day of my search is paid with innocent blood. If I don't kill the butcher in a week, then I'll become a real Kadrat, another one in the court of the Plague Maiden. So before we agreed to avenge Syl, this time we're going to cheat and imprison Syl. And you tried to trick me. Came to me so that I would find the butcher for you. Syl tries to appear convincing, but it is clear that she is beset by doubt. Don't you want to stop this pestilence? To stop this absurd string of deaths? This is my duty, Syl. This is my duty, Syl. You won't know rest until you kill your tormentors. And you won't let us live in peace either. I've forgotten their faces, and the house. I had to forget everything, but I couldn't. Mela's caress awoke my memory. There are not so many butchers in town. We'll round them up and surely catch yours. Are you going to trick me? Richard does not linger with his answer. There is a way for you to be certain. To take your word for it. Get inside me. If you don't go too crazy in there, I will endure long enough to find your butcher. Then the plague will be over and my wounds will heal. Syl looks astonished by such a proposal. It's apparently hard for her to imagine someone willing to let a Kadrat inside them by their own will. What a crazy offer. You're certainly young and strong, but aren't you afraid of the torment and pain of my curse? Richard just grins, looking her straight in the eye. I do. Am I not human, after all? But if this is the price of all the townsfolk's lives, it must be paid. She respectfully nods, appreciating his bravery. With such words, you'd fit well in the court of our Lord Valentine. Do you agree? Don't delay it any further. There are innocents dying outside these walls. Syl comes very close and looks into his eyes, as if trying to guess his thoughts, but the Senator's gaze is straight and honest. She touches his lips with a fleeting kiss, and Richard inhales her, takes her all in, hide and hair. He is slow, unhurried to rise from the bed, and then catches his breath and opens his eyes. Some time is needed to catch his breath, to suppress the untimely joy of his victory. The Senator is breathing deeply, calming his thunderous heart. The cage has shut. Let's go, Syl. Try not to kill me before it's time. Now he can hear her inside him, so close that it seems she is whispering into his ear from inside his head, The malady settles in him like a sated snake, and Richard's chest fills with a warmness that reminds him of a feverish heat. Calor. Soon more symptoms will appear. You're tough on the inside. Others would have already started to lose blood. How else can we fight you, the Kadrat, as equals? Richard walks the narrow streets in a hurry to get as far as possible before Syl starts to realize what the trick is. He must get to the fortress before starting this game of hide-and-seek. Where are we going? We're not going. We're running, my darling. The Sanator is walking faster, smiling and trying to stay calm as best he can. Syl does not like his answer. Where to? To the butcher's, of course. To the fortress? Richard still tries to be convincing. Each minute is at stake. There are lists of townsfolk and houses. Did you expect me to know all of them personally? I don't believe you. Stop. If we stop to argue, I could die. You're in my power anyway. I can tear your heart apart if I want to. The Sanator smiles. Even tougher ones. The Sanator smiles. Even tougher ones have been handled. Huh. Well, you can try. Richard is focused on walking, trying not to be distracted by the burning sensation around his neck. While she desperately tries to break him, Syl becomes surprised. Very surprised. Sooner or later, she will think about attacking him in a different way, and sink herself even deeper into his trap. From now to the fortress. His head is going numb. An unexpected weakness makes the doctor's feet go pit-a-pat, and he falls softly on the wet pavement, losing consciousness. It's time to play. Richard runs through the meandering labyrinth of the dream again, but this time not alone. Here, a wrathful Syl does not resemble that little waif anymore, and the nocturnals flee from her in a frightened swarm. Again and again, her hands reach out for the victim and catch nothing. The Sanator dives into the dark tunnels, hides in gloomy, damp passages, leading the spirit further in until he gets to the innermost depths of the dream. Here, on the narrow gallery, lit by the glow of the heart, he has nowhere to run anymore. It is strange, but Richard is smiling. Syl is approaching, her eyes glowing with rage. What did you achieve by cheating me, Crow? Now I'll kill you and return to devastate the town. Do you think your Crow friends will have time to understand what's happening to you? It seems I've forgotten to introduce you to a very nice person. Your tricks won't help you. I need to distinguish her monster voice a little more. Richard turns away silently, looking at the light. Syl takes a step towards him and freezes. Be gentle with her, Anga. Out of the Sanator's back rises a huge shape with Anga's face, surgical tools held in her numerous hands. A mad, infernally wide smile and glowing eyes make her even scarier than Syl. As you wish, dear Richard. Our acquaintance will be quite long. We aren't in a hurry, are we, my dear? Syl silently darts off, disappearing into the darkness, but the shadow only laughs, looking at her go. I've always wanted such a toy, Richard. Soon, I'll fall asleep for a very long time. Didn't I promise to save you from the sea? My generosity will know no bounds. Wake up. I'll take care of her. Richard awakens, surrounded by crow-like faces, and the glasses of their masks scatter the gleam of sunlight. He's being carried somewhere. So we've already gotten this ending, I think. So I'm just going to kind of skip ahead a little bit. And just make sure... Yep. So that was only ending 2. So we only got ending 2 that time. So we're going to reload here. We're going to drive her away. Okay. You, as I see, weren't born yesterday, and so we got this part here. Or did we? You, as I see, weren't born yesterday. Why are you standing there? Hide and wait. Syl looks disappointed by such an answer. Where should I hide? Let's see, no one will care about you in the fortress now. So we did get this line before. Yeah, so I think we got all of this. So before we save the fool, so let's try pleasing Anga here. Your brother's guts looked like the ones of a dog. Ask your mother what breed your father was. That's fucked up. While a surprised Ryder realizes how badly he was insulted, the Sanator turns the handle of his stick and feels the soft click of the brass latch inside. Goodness. With an angry shout, the Ryder rushes at Richard, raising his club for a strike, but meets the sweep of the stick. The heavy tube shudders as the spring inside is released. Outwardly, it may look as if the Sanator just hooked the chin of the attacker with the handle of the heavy stick, but instead a triangular thorn hidden inside it has pierced the Marauder's tongue and palate and plunged deep into his brain, stopping at the very cranial vault. Damn. Turned into a fucking, warhammer, or a war pick. Not realizing that their fellow is already dead, the rioters try and attack Richard in their turn. He releases his stick, letting the dead body collapse. Richard barely has time to dodge the club aimed at his head. The strike lands on his shoulder, sidelong, leaving a swath of sharp pain. Unable to counterattack, the second wretch is closing in, so he has to turn the blade of the dirty knife aimed at his stomach aside. The club rises again, but Anga is already awakened. It is not to Richard's liking to watch this. It's quite enough to hear them howling. Anga always starts with their... Anga always starts with their feet, to stop the ones who were seeking Richard's life from running away. Jesus. She simply mimics what she had seen in the dreams, and opens up the bodies according to the canons of dissection. Living bodies. She takes revenge. It's hard to understand the Shadow's way of thinking. Richard doesn't even try. It's enough for him that, after what's happened, Anga will be obedient and sweet as a kitten. The wolves are sated and the sheep happen to be scabby. It's only the good people of Tentaria that the brothers protect, right? Damn. At midday, the Senators hold council in the town hall. The fortress is closed and the quarantine outposts are reinforced, and the guards manning them are not afraid of getting infected anymore. A brewing riot has been suppressed for the time being, but for how long? So, I think we got this part before, so let me see here. Okay, and this part. Okay, there we go. Syl comes behind his back and onto the street, out of nowhere. Richard steps back from her. The same bright, blood-red scarf is fluttering on the waif's neck. Where have you gotten that thing from? Do you want one too? I got this one at a high cost. A guess pierces the Sanator's mind, but he hesitates and makes one more attempt to save his nearly shattered illusions. Are you ill, or... Forgive me, Crow, for leading you on. It's not so easy to believe the enemy in my line of work. I'd like to understand why you'd even talk to me. A doctor is not a friend of the malady. Syl looks at him in an unusually serious way and cocks her head to the side, suddenly asking... Maybe you think I'm devastating this town on a whim, amusing myself, like Cerestia? Like Certesia? No. I know you came for someone's blood, but you are unable to find it. You're one wise crow, then. How did you know? Maybe you've already found my enemy? I'm not sure yet. There is one likely candidate. Tell me, how are you going to look for him? Syl freezes, thinking, but after a few moments she raises her eyes, bright and glowing with malice. I remember the house, the butcher's house. It was never home to me, so the ordeals didn't erase my memories completely. So we're going to promise her to find her home. I think this decision will be most fair. Let's go, Syl. Let's find that damned house and free the town of you. And you from your revenge. I was not mistaken about you, Crow. Hurry. I'm tired of the blood river flowing through me. Without a backwards glance, Richard goes where the plague began, to the most remote section of the quarantine quarters, which the pestilence has already ravaged and left rows of crosses on the doors. He knows that Syl is following him silently, and he has only to make sure that his suspicions about Mr. Willowbrow are true. Okay, we're going to save there. Let's just go... Do we ask the neighbors first? Let's try asking the neighbors first. Only a few houses survived in the wake of the unnatural pestilence, and all thanks to the very man Richard is going to give over to Syl. Why did he pay for the seals on his neighbors' houses? Why did he want to divert suspicion? Did he want to divert suspicions? Or was he bound to them by something more than a mere place of residence? Taking a drink real quick. Anyway, if he wants to get information, he must question them extremely carefully. He'll hide Syl. When I find your murderer's house, I'll bring him over for you to welcome. Don't delay it, Crow. Richard knocks on the door long and hard before any sound comes from inside. If it wasn't for the lack of a cross on the door, he would have thought it to be deserted. But it's not the malady that keeps its inhabitants from answering. It's fear. It's the fear. Apparently, without a bit of lying, Richard won't get any answer. Good citizens, is anyone alive there? Shall we burn the house? Alive and well, no one's sick here. You need to make that voice a little more distinct. Would you open the door, good sir? The voice behind the door becomes a little steadier. I'm coming, hold on. Ooh, this guy's of sight. The sound of bolts sliding back are heard, and the door opens with a creak, presenting a pale, nervous man squinting at Richard with purblind eyes. That was purblind. It's like a color? He looks at the Sanator with fear, and also with a hidden hope. If the crows haven't left, the town can still be saved. We're listing houses for banning. Quarantine measures. Are you sure you've got no sick people around? Not at all. What voice does this guy have? It looks very like... None at all. All safe and sound, just hiding in the cellar. No, that's not a good voice. What about your neighbors, the meat sellers? After thinking about it for a while, he nods and the tassel of his scarf cap dances on his skinny shoulders. Think they're alive? Damn it. I wanted like a greasy voice for this guy. It looks very greasy. I think they're alive. I've seen lights through their windows recently. The senator makes an uncertain gesture with his hand, as if asking the man to come closer and talk quieter. That's good. Do you know who's currently living there, by chance? The butcher and his wife. There's also a maid, a little pimple. She's run away since Heinrich likes to drink and he's heavy-handed too. She cleared out in time then. Well, lock it up and keep you well. We'll be done here soon. The house with the tiger violets on the windowsills. Just yesterday one could hear laughter coming from there, and now Richard has to wait until his knock is answered. No one is trying to peer behind the shutters in order to find out who came to their door and what news he brought. The merry house became silent, not wishing to tease the plague with children's laughter. The woman who talked to him yesterday doesn't waste time on niceties today. Sleeplessness and fear have exhausted her, drained her. You again? Me again. How are you? Is everyone well? She nods in answer, sighing. I took the children to the Sleeper's Temple. It's certainly safer there. But the father has completely fallen apart. How could I leave him here? It's safe here now. The seal's been set on your doors. It has. May the Sleeper save my neighbor Heinrich? Perhaps it was what saved us? Richard steps forward, trying to make his voice sound trustworthy. How long have you known him for? About 8 years. We got acquainted when he moved here. And what concern is that of yours? Mere curiosity. Have you noticed anything strange about him? Richard seems to be misunderstood. The woman's indignant tone leaves little place for interpretation. Listen, you take me for a sneak. I've never earwigged in my life, and I'm not going to start now. Have they all gone mad in good old Rustad? Think whom you're talking to. Think who you're talking to. Richard grips the woman by the neckpiece, dismissing the ripping sound the cloth makes, and nearly hisses in her face, which has become pale with fear. No, you listen. Your neighbor, Heinrich, is suspected of the malefic which brought the pestilence into this town. If we don't stop him, it will be the end of your children and everyone sheltering in the temple. Is it clear now? Even when his grasp weakens, Mrs. Hine holds onto the black glove, trying not to look at the crow mask, and shaking her head as if persuading herself that she has heard a lie. Sleep protect. I never noticed anything sorcery about him. He's a butcher like any other. They may come to buy meat at night, but our governor feasts until morning. Maybe he sent his cooks for supplies? So someone came at night for the meat. For what else could one come to the butcher? And sometimes there's blood on the pavement in the morning. Richard lets Mrs. Hine free and spits a terrifying explanation at her. Now put two and two together. That was human blood, and if it wasn't for your children, you deserve to be whipped for the misprision? You deserve to be whipped for the misprision. No idea what that word's supposed to mean. Like inadvertent lying, maybe? How could I know? So you mean those servant girls didn't run away? That may be hard to do. Dismembered. Leaving the terrified woman alone, Richard heads to Mr. Wilburow's place. From afar, comes the buzz of the crowd and gleams of torches. Brother Wygear trusted Richard's intuition and didn't hesitate. Unlike him, one by one, beak-headed figures come along, grouping around the Sanator. The neighbors have testified, if indirectly, regarding the guilt of Heinrich Wilbur. No time to gather all the evidence. May the Kadrat's ordeal judge him. Yes, it may seem unfair, wagering someone's life in the hope that he's the reason for the epidemic disaster, but drastic times call for drastic measures. The brothers do not need much time to take the butcher's house by storm. In less than half an hour, he is led out into the street, not exactly fit to run away. It seems all his strength is spent keeping the sharp thorns of the holder bat away from his neck. Ooh, the good old man-catcher. God damn, the Sanators are fucking crazy. Syl, do you recognize your sworn enemy? Yes. The butcher turns purple and lets out a horrible scream as his skin opens like a scarlet scarf. The execution does not last long. It seems that Syl doesn't wish to restrain herself. Yet Richard is not disappointed with a fast end. Heinrich Wilbur was not acting alone. Had he hoped to take his secrets to the grave? A brother standing next to him shows with a gesture that Heinrich has expired, and the second one takes the holder bat off the neck of the dead man. Richard comes closer to look into the killer's eyes. When the time comes, the Sanator kneeling by the body had already started to... Richard comes closer to look into the killer's eyes. When the time comes, the Sanator, kneeling by the body, had already started the helping hand ritual, and Richard smiles beneath his mask. After a few minutes, the blood-stained body twitches with a strong convulsion, and the butcher opens his eyes. Welcome back again. He always says this to those brought back to life, whether as heartfelt greeting or as a promise of reckoning. Heinrich shouldn't expect the former in this case. We haven't had time to ask you something. The executors will specify the list. Once in the Brotherhood's torture chambers, Heinrich Wilbur cracked like a rotten nut. Thanks to his testimonies, other cultists were caught, strings stretched in all directions. More and more faces were emerging from the troubled waters. Under the cover of the massive persecution, which weakened many nobles' positions, the Brotherhood also dealt with those who were not implicated in worshipping Ragazan. But Richard was already far away, nominated for an award and promoted to Grand Sanator. He was left more or less to his own devices and unexpectedly joined an obscure group known as Corvi Viatori. As a traveling doctor, he visited many corners of Tentaria, from the magnificent capitals to the villages lost in taiga, always staying only where his help was needed. Some say he had friends among the savage idler and the swamp folk, but who can truly follow a crow flying around the country? Those few fragments of his biography that became known were provided by the orphans who lived at the Brotherhood orphanages, thanks to Richard. It is not known for sure where his journey ended. One hopes that the crow, as he would introduce himself to the children, had indeed made a nest for himself rather than just falling mid-flight. Oh no, that got to me a little bit. First off, crazy ruined structures, that's cool, but like, oh man, to just say, that he basically like kind of grew a heart there, after, helping the Kadrat, Syl to get her vengeance and avenging her more or less, that he introduced himself to children going forward as Crow, like, sort of like to remember her. That was, that got me a little bit. That was a good ending. That was probably like the good ending, I think. Though I think there's a true ending that we're still missing. I'm not sure where, though. Okay. Let me see here. I think the last one we need to do is just go direct to the butchers. Wasting time by conducting an investigation in full compliance with the rules in this situation is an unaffordable luxury. Richard Murdoch does not value instructions enough to pay in lives for following them. If he is mistaken and Mr. Willowborough is innocent, he'll just join the ranks of those who perish these days. Risking Heinrich's life for the sake of saving many others seems prudent enough to the Sanator. Soon he sees the house marked on the maps. Rather a modest dwelling for such a rich man. Couldn't Mr. Willowborough afford something swankier? Well, wealth and greed often go hand in hand. Perhaps he just liked the cellar there. A circle of the seal, set on the door, slightly glows in the evening twilight. Richard raises his stick and knocks loudly, summoning the landlord. Heavy steps are heard inside, and candlelight flickers. A low, coarse voice inquires from behind the door. Who's it the Tenebrae brings? The brothers. A routine round of the surviving dwellings, Mr. Willowborough. The door doesn't hurry to open. Judging by the intonations, the one behind it is drunk even now. Must we be rounded? We're alive, praise be to the sleeper. You better go treat the sick. At a different time, Richard would have threatened the impertinent, but now he has a much more elegant key to the door. I'll write it down then. Refuse the seal renewal by his own will. Ask to not be disturbed anymore. Good night. Seems like the wine spirit is promptly exorcised from the butcher's head by the magic word seals. Hey, stop. Wait, I'm opening. Why didn't you say you're with the exorcists? The clatter of bolts and the clanking of keys is heard from within. Whomever Heinrich may be, he is surely afraid not only of spirits, but of humans too. He fiddles with the locks, cursing through his teeth, but at last the door opens, and Richard has the dubious pleasure of meeting the homeowner. You come alone? Go on, draw it. I'll bring the purse. Richard raises his hands, refusing, a pretense to an unselfish zeal. No, don't mention it. You've donated generously. It's quite enough. I'll examine the seals, and if the spirits tried to break in, I'll reinforce them for free. The butcher could find that suspicious, but he only scratches his head, slowly sobering up. Oh, so that's how it is. Save you the sleeper, then. Some powerful people ask to take care of you. It would be disrespectful to refuse them such a small favor. Well, they remember the poor butcher. My goods are not for beggars. Maybe I should buy veal from you too, pink, tender, and slightly sweet, just as the gentleman said. Mr. Willowborough's tone changes. He obviously ponders hastily how to drive the annoying brother away. Oh, good brother. I don't even know how to put it. My supply orders are scheduled 6 months in advance. Can I refuse the regular customers? Maybe you could come back later about it. I don't know what to do with his accent. The pestilence sure got some of them. Not all are as thoughtful as you, Mr. Willowbrow. The pestilence. Yes, what do you mean? There we go, it's a little better. Richard looks at the butcher, feeling that he's starting to lose patience. The pestilence won't stop until the Kadrat finds her murderer, Mr. Willowbrow. Well, how long will you hold out in your house? A month? 2? Heinrich is already angry and frightened. He tries to press on the Sanator, angrily shaking his thick finger in front of the crow mask. You're the brothers. What use are you if you can't kill a mere spirit? That's your job. Richard, by contrast, speaks even more calmly, and even kindly, as if talking to a baby. She'll come back again and again. We fight not only the consequences, but the reasons first and foremost. The butcher is shouting now. So go and fight it instead of chatting on my doorstep. Not all unjustly murdered return as Kadrat. Melamiliar wouldn't let her get back here were it not for the deeds that her lord Not all unjustly murdered return as Kadrat. Melamiliar wouldn't let her get back here were it not for the deeds that her lord particularly dislikes. High-coloured with emotion, Mr. Willowbrow spits in rage, twitching like a fish on a hook. Why in blazes are you telling me this? Do your business and get... Stopping abruptly as he sees something behind Richard's shoulder, he goes white with fear and opens his mouth silently, as if he were punched in the stomach. The Sanator doesn't need to look back. He knows who's been following him the whole time. The butcher at last takes control of himself and shuts the door with a smash, the bolts clanging. I'll call the exorcist to erase the seal. Oh, my crow, don't worry. My memories have returned to me. I can't pass through these walls. There's another entrance he wouldn't show you. The brothers. Hurry up, Syl. He's yours. Farewell, Crow. I'll forget you in the Astinif. I'll forget you in the Astinif. Not what you've done for me. Syl smiles warmly, glowing from happiness, and slowly sinks underground, moving towards the butcher's house, as if moving down an invisible staircase. Richard pulls off his now unneeded mask from his face and sits down on the doorstep, tiredly leaning back against the door. When the first screams come from inside, he smiles. Syl doesn't seem to be in a hurry. Richard can hear stomping feet, furniture falling down, the sounds of pots smashed. Howdy, Sporonic. He can easily imagine what's going on inside. Now the fat man bolts from the cellar to the doors to the kitchen, bumps into the stool, knocking it over with a crash. He throws a pot at Syl, as if an ethereal spirit can be stopped with such a mundane object. He reaches inside the oven, burning his hands, trying to grab some coals. Not a bad idea, but still useless. Unable to endure the heat, he drops his last hope with a cry of pain and despair. Syl is already near, and a swing of her hand rips a strip of flesh off the butcher's body. Not the first one. From afar comes the buzz of the crowd and the gleams of torches. Brother Rygear trusted Richard's intuition and didn't hesitate. Unlike him, one by one beaked figures come along, grouping around the Sanator. The Kadrat and her murderer are inside. Burn the house. Arrest all the customers of the butcher. They'll try to flee. What will be the accusation? Ragazan's cult. Mr. Willowbrow's house was the first pyre out of many that flared up around Rustad. Soon all the town knew who was the cause of the plague, and the hunt for the surviving customers of the butcher began. The Brotherhood executors barely had time to snatch the suspects from the hands of the angry mob, but they were hardly better off that way. More than 30 individuals were accused of worshipping the god of torment and executed in the town square. A lot of information about the cult's cells in the area and other cities was obtained from them, and a massive persecution swept the region. The Brotherhood took this opportunity to eliminate known troublemakers and dangerous nobles, consolidating its authority. The hero who stopped the pestilence, Richard Murdoch, wasn't forgotten either. He was aggressively opposing the improper conduct of the investigation in Raganites cases. He was aggressively opposing the improper conduct of the investigation in Ragazanites cases. To get him out of the way, a letter was sent to the Grand Prior of Corpus Sanati, wherein Richard's story was presented very favorably, and a promotion was suggested. The latter was indeed approved. When summoned to Kerneberg, Richard Murdoch was granted the rank of Grand Sanator, and his new title didn't leave him much time for intruding into the affairs around Rustad. Understanding that he couldn't win this fight, Brother Murdoch volunteered to head one of the missions of Corpus Sanati in the distant region of Taiga near Lake Tanner, where he chose to remain, finding solace in the relative quiet life far away from the city bustle. So basically got shoved to the side. Some malicious gossips would say his evenings were blessed not with the service to the people. Some malicious gossips would say his evenings were blessed not with the service to the people of Tentaria, but with berry hooch and the caresses of a native Isler girl. But everyone's allowed to have guilty pleasures, right? Oh, so he got a wife. I guess the Isler are these cat people? Interesting. That's not terrible as ends go. Okay, time for the true ending. Congratulations, Sanator. Today you finally put an end to the epidemic. Rustad is now safe, however everything has a price. But this is not the end. This is the beginning. What? Who knows where these bizarre pathways of the spark will lead you? The roads of fate that you have chosen on your own. Okay. Time for the true ending. Yeah, let's click on the top one. Wild Trails of Tentaria. The cold wind that forced its way through the yellowing forest made the crowns of Ancorias proudly stretching towards the sky whisper. The soft autumn sun has long been lost between the trunks of mighty trees, only sometimes peeking out onto the road timidly. A lonely traveler, wrapped in a spacious traveling cloak, was riding on a horse heavily laden with saddlebags. Past him, leaves flew like carmine butterflies, clinging to the wool of his cloak, as if wanting to remain on it as a bright patch or buckle. Nothing about the wanderer would have seemed suspicious from afar. Aside from his recklessness, only a few people would dare to wander Tentaria alone, especially when night was near. Only an attentive look would have caught that his lips whispered soundlessly, and that his eyes were full of some kind of childish curiosity. I'm gonna take a drink. Oh, this is him when he was young. Okay. Throat was getting dry there. The traveler looked tired, but at the same time, his gaze rushed around with an unusual liveliness. Sometimes he raised his hands, which might frighten the observer Sometimes he raised his head, which might frighten the observer. The greedy movements of his pupils and the fatigued immobility of his face were incompatible with each other. It seemed like he tried to look at everything. His eyes watched the leaves fall and immediately tried to encompass the heights of the trees. They rested on his horse's nape, then rose up, catching the outlines of wild geese flying south. Yeah, this is a much more innocent Richard, I think. Or, no wait, he's letting Ango look through his eyes. Okay, interesting. Ango, watch the world. It wasn't difficult to ride without eyes. The clever horse looked where it stepped, and there was nowhere to turn from the forest path. Richard was more exhausted with the flow of questions from the shadow, the answers to which he often couldn't find. Why did the leaves turn red and fall? Asked Anga. It's autumn, the wind. The Sanator tried to get off easy. And green leaves do not fly? Anga marveled. And all reds do. Why is it so? I'm getting the voice a little wrong there, but when Richard began to invent explanations, the Shadow's gaze had already found a new toy. "I'll look at the leaves later," she apologized. "I'll remember where they are. And what's that in the sky now? A cloud?" The Sanator tried to guess. "One of the moons? A bird?" The sound of cranes told him what Anga's eyes were looking at. "The migratory birds are hurrying over the mountains from the cold," he explained, and the Shadow was silenced for a short time, watching the triangle of flocks hiding behind the trees. Ooh, dark red eyes peering out from the darkness. It was getting darker. It would be better to stop and build a fire while it was still possible to find a convenient place to sleep. But Richard didn't want to hasten Anga. It was not often that she had the occasion to look at the world with her own eyes, and the Sanator was ashamed to deprive her of these little joys. He didn't realize that the darkness had thickened around them. And instead of the setting sun, the greenish moon, Nurian, was shining. He was alarmed by something. His horse was worried. The tired horse snorted and shook his head, speeding up the pace, although there was nowhere to hurry to. "Anga, what's wrong with the horse?" "He's worried. He probably doesn't like the rustling bushes or the eyes watching us." "Eyes? They've been following us for a long time, but I don't feel threatened." "Come back. We're in trouble," he ordered. "What are you doing? I would have smelled the danger." "We'll figure it out later. Return the eyes to me, or this forest will be our grave." The reminder of death sobered the Shadow, and Richard instantly received his sight, suddenly riding on a speeding horse in the dark forest, surrounded by wolves pursuing him on both sides. He barely had time to duck the broken branch hanging over the path that would have otherwise knocked him out of the saddle, leaving him almost helpless in the midst of company wishing to feast on him. "Tenebrae, take me! They're everywhere!" The Sanator spurred the horse, who was rushing with all his might. Heavy traveling bags hanging on the straps of both sides of the saddle dangled and jumped, hindering the horse. Richard realized they couldn't outrun the wolves with these bags. As ill luck would have it, the handle of his knife was tangled in the folds of his cloak, and the Sanator couldn't get it to cut the rope. Couldn't get to it to cut the straps holding the bags. Finally, after a few dozen strokes of the heart, Richard managed to grab it. The sharp-edged blade of his short skinning knife glittered in the moonlight. Oh my god. My voice. He grabbed the bow of the saddle, trying not to let go of the knife or reins. Checking something real quick. Okay. Cutting into the wide straps of the bags that were dancing in dangerous proximity to his feet. Without a second thought, Murdoch sliced the strap that was right before his eyes. Ah! But it would have been better if he hadn't. Left without the main fastening, the heavy bags with supplies and the Sanator's things hanging off the saddle, the bags tangled in the legs of the unfortunate horse, and he reared with a loud neigh, dropping the rider to the wolves' mouths. Richard clutched the saddle with all his might, but the girth broke and he fell to the ground with a curse, tangled in the stirrups. The knife in his hand couldn't save him from their rapacious jaws, and his horse was already rushing off somewhere into the night. Several wolves ran after the animal, but Richard knew that the others were too much for him. Grasping his miserable weapon, he pressed his back against a tree, bidding farewell to Anga and getting ready to sell his life dearly. The darkness behind his back thickened in ribbons, growing like a black bird spreading its wings wide. "Well, come on already!" Richard yelled spitefully at the wolf that was creeping up to him, readying to pounce. But in the next moment, a glass in his bag cracked sonorously, and a bright flame broke forth from the pouch's opening, swelling with a smoky bubble, most likely one of the vessels of essence that the Sanator had taken on his journey in order to make the fire in the damp. My god, these sentences are so long. Most likely one of the vessels of essence that the Sanator had taken on his journey in order to make fire in the damp, rainy weather that had cracked after falling. My god. Okay. The wolf sprang back from the bag, and Richard didn't miss his chance. A powerful kick with his iron-studded boot threw the flashing bag up in the air and ripped open its cracked material. Things flew apart, covered in alchemical fire and highlighting the trees with flashing flames. The low growing branch on a tall Ancoria seemed to offer rescue to the Sanator. Richard rushed to the tree, feeling the essence stuck to his boot, burning through the leather, and leaking deeper and deeper. Only one wolf attempted to block his way, but the Sanator tried daringly to kick it in its muzzle, and it recoiled at the sight of his flaming boot. Clinging to the creaky branch, Murdoch quickly climbed up a branchy crown, and only there hastened to tear off the burning boot from his foot. Cursing, he launched it at one of the wolves. "Damn you!" he shouted at the beasts in useless anger, watching his burning luggage and wincing at the pain in his burned leg. The wolves answered him with a dreary, uneven howl. Realizing the beasts wouldn't be dispersing soon, Richard found a fork in the tree branches to comfortably lay down on, tying himself to the branch with a belt. It was necessary to save his strength until there was an opportunity to escape. He tore off the Ancoria leaf and began to chew the bitter, fibrous stuff, distracting himself from the pain in his leg. It should be better in the morning. In the meantime, sleep. Sleep would take away both the annoyance and the pain. As always. Following the path. The horse walked slowly along the leafy road, and the clatter of hooves was muffled in the many-colored veil, moist from the morning dew. Here a lonely traveler had to save his horse's strength. Often was the only chance to escape the inhabitants of the thickets. But today the path was calm, the forest sang its usual song. The crowns of Ancories, whispered in the wind. The smaller trees creaked at their bases, and small birds persistently echoed each other, as if warning of the danger that was rushing beneath the treetops. The danger was not interested in them, however. An intimidating war dog was running through the undergrowth and didn't pay attention to the birds, too busy with its finding. "Embers," the horsewoman called to the dog. He gave a low yelp in response to her voice, but didn't leave the place, just barked invitingly. Krita stopped her horse and dismounted. From under her feet and the dense layer of moss, large flat plates peeked out here and there, the legacy of ancient times, even more ancient than what she and her elder were seeking. Krita walked slowly to her dog, who was waiting for her, and she held her hand on the hilt of a sword. On the hilt of a sword blade that was sleeping in the scabbard at her waist. That's way too flowery there. Krita walked slowly to her dog, who was waiting for her. She held her hand on the hilt of a short blade that was sleeping in a scabbard at her waist. She unsheathed it, though she didn't sense any danger. Embers wasn't worried, but only wanted to show her something. However, the sleeper helps those who help themselves. She was taught caution, and she was a good student. Krita's alertness was unneeded. She scratched her dog hard on the scruff so he could feel the caress through his thick fur. He grumbled gratefully, looking up at his mistress. The girl told him to watch with a short gesture, and then sat down to examine his finding. Ooh, that's spooky. This weird technological ruin that's everywhere is so interesting as a contrast. In front of her was a body that had been here so long buttercups had grown through the bones. Judging by the rotten rags, which were once expensive silk, it was clear that the deceased was rich. Was he a nobleman or a trader? It wasn't so important. Krita's attention was drawn to what was left of a bag near the body. She carefully touched the sprawling fabric with her knife and tore it apart. Greenish coppers, sodden and stuck together in moldy paper, rusted gear wheels, the mint of old coinage. Nothing of value. Suddenly it seemed that the rags on the corpse moved slightly. In a gap of the fabric, a chain appeared to have fallen into the ribs. Having pinned it with the knife point, Krita extracted a ring of green alloy. A ring of green alloy. No, not precious, but skillfully made and covered with strange patterns. Not like the letters she was taught. Not the angular arrows of Eilery. The signs of wild cats that the elder studied. Not the angular arrows of Eilery. The signs of wild cats that the elder studied. This should be shown to him. Come on, she said to the dog as she returned to her horse, who was chewing a bush. I don't have enough lines to really get a voice for her, so we'll kind of work on it. It was a miracle that no one had discovered this body before. Wild animals hadn't torn it to shreds, ants hadn't completely cleaned the bones. But along the path, the forest didn't look dead. The birds sang, the forest bloodsuckers buzzed. Krita didn't feel any danger. Was this corpse a sign that whatever the elder was searching for is nearby? Maybe. It wasn't the strangest finding among those that she had happened to see during the campaign. To return just to show the ring would be foolish. She had to go further. Just leaving a mark was enough. She took a white ribbon from her saddlebags and tied it to a rod that was sticking out of the slabs near the body. In 2 days, the Brotherhood following her would figure out what to do. When she climbed onto her horse, a small sack of sweets fell out of her bag. It had been given to her by the wandering brother of the Viatori Corps, who had met with her yesterday. His hair was as red as Krita's. Oh, so that would be our brother Murdoch. Krita lifted the sack and was going to put it back, but Embers was wagging his tail, looking inquiringly at his mistress. The girl sighed and took out some sweets. Tenebrae with you. Have some, you've earned it. You've earned it. She fed him a couple of sweet cracknels and ate one herself, hoping that she wouldn't want to drink soon. These Corvuses roaming the thickets are certainly strange, the girl thought, but it wasn't for her, Elmo's hound, to judge this. Krita traveled onward. Should be Krita? I don't know. The first of the 4 destinies of Richard Murdoch is chosen. Arrow. This is really interesting. So we can't save either. But I think after we get the ending to this one, we'll probably quit for the night, because it's... we got 30 minutes left. The Sanator who joined the ranks of the Corvi Viatori is set on a path full of peril and hardships. Actions of the wedding unfold in the village of Unterhan, lost in the midst of Tentaria's boundless forests. Here, Richard must meet face to face with the most insane ritual of the North. Moreover, he must become its direct participant. Our new story is one that is not included in the official reports of the Brotherhood. It is the lost page which they tried to erase. But they could not. Sanator. The wedding. The feast is coming. Huh. Okay, interesting. So these are... So there's going to be updates eventually. Interesting. I have to look more into this. So it does look like we're finished for now. So... that was a lot of fun. I think... this game definitely didn't get as much attention as it really deserved, I think. Wow, because the lore, crazy. The entire story, the storytelling, amazing. Pulled on my heartstrings a little bit on one of the endings. And, it was short and sweet. I mean, sure, there were multiple endings to it, but overall, it's a very playable game. You know, it's not going to take you hundreds and hundreds of hours to get the full story. Which I think a lot of other games just don't, or a lot of developers just don't appreciate these days. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I can't sit down and play a game for hundreds of hours anymore. Unless it's particularly mindless, like Elden Ring or Stellaris or what have you. Anyway, I think I want to do something like a lore stream sometime soon, where I dig into the lore entries that we've unlocked. Because, holy shit, this game is so fucking cool, and I really hope to see more from this developer. But for now, I'll catch you later. I'm gonna go chill out for the rest of the night, and yeah, I'll catch you tomorrow. Bye.